journey week by week. SNL's best episodes they seek. From Colin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the first official Monday night podcast of the summer of 2025. Here to count down SNL's greatest hosts, our third week of this countdown series that we're doing all summer long here on the Saturday Night Network. And I'm so excited to be back here once again this week with my man, Bill Kenny. Bill, how are you?
Great, John. Wow, this has been such an adventure already. Only in week 3, it's only going to get better. We have some very interesting episodes to talk about this week, and we have our first returning host, which has made this even more difficult and more exciting to get into, John. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here tonight that we have every Monday night. We're so excited to be joined by some great patrons every week on the podcast. So we are, of course, here as a presentation of latenighter.com, and here with another amazing patron this week. Jared Klein is here. Jared, how are you?
Hey, life's good down here. Former SNL host Taylor Swift actually visited the children's hospital I work at. So that's
wow,
pretty cool. Didn't get to meet her, sadly. Maybe next time. But another big thing. Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup champs. I'm very happy about that, and very happy to discuss some great SNL episodes with some very iconic sketches.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Excited to talk to you about the sketches that we're going to see here tonight. Congrats to all of the people rooting for the champions that won this week in both hockey and basketball. So Florida Panthers and Oklahoma City Thunder fans. So a little bit of sports talk at the beginning. And yeah, we have 4 more episodes that we're going to be counting down here tonight: 42, 41, 40, and 39. So before we get there, let's talk about the 8 episodes that we revealed previously on the countdown. And again, if this is your first time joining us here on the countdown, spoilers incoming. So you should go back and watch those first 2 episodes we've done the last couple of weeks. But for now, we're going to read out the 8 episodes. And Bill, I'm going to ask you if you don't mind reading it out and then asking Jared his thoughts on the countdown so far, just because I want to fix a minor internet issue I'm having, and I'll pop right back in. So let me put that up on screen. And here we go. And Bill, I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Yeah, starting at number 50, we had Patrick Swayze and Mariah Carey. Oh, and the list is gone. So, Jared, what have you thought about what we've revealed so far? We'll get into the full list in just a minute.
I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. I mean, maybe evil Captain Kirk would tell us all to get a life, but I really enjoy a lot of these sketches. It's fun to look at different eras of the show and be like, oh, I remember that, and as well as discovering some new sketches. So it's been a good time.
It's really interesting, and especially with seeing some of the ones that maybe I wouldn't have put on the list, John wouldn't have put on the list, but still going back and watching them, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been really good to see the results of the countdown. When I left, did the countdown results leave with me? I'm sorry.
It did.
Okay,
did.
My bad. Did you remember them off by heart?
I did not.
Okay. Should I put them back up on screen for everybody?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Let's we're recording live. Things happen. All right, here we go. So should I reset, Bill? Is that what the best course of action is here?
Yes, I only got to number 50, John. So we can...
Okay, my bad. All right, there you go. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. Let's take this over. Audio feed. You will never hear this part of the video. Okay, so let's talk about the host rankings so far. This is summer, people. We're having some fun. Let's go through who we revealed so far on the first 8 episodes of the series. And first up, as Bill previously said, Patrick Swayze and Mariah Carey. A really fun episode. Then we had the great Michael Jordan and Public Enemy, followed by David Alan Grier and Silverchair from season 21, and then Anne Hathaway and the Killers from season 34. Last week, we revealed Jerry Seinfeld and Annie Lennox. Had a great time talking about that one. Conan's epic episode came in 45 with Don Henley. Justin Timberlake, season 38, where he did some double duty and had that 5 timers monologue. And then the great William Shatner hosted with music from Lone Justice in season 12. And those were the 8 episodes we revealed so far on the countdown. All right, Bill Kenny, now let's get your thoughts. What were the last couple of weeks like for you as we revealed these 8?
It's been a roller coaster. And as I said, like there's some really interesting nuggets here from eras. Haven't watched in a while. Also episodes wouldn't necessarily have thought to put in. As we went through the list, submitting our choices, it's certainly very easy to miss something on a list of 988 names and 50 seasons. So it's been a joy to watch some of these again. And as we said off air coming into this, kind of interesting to go from era to era. It's been jumping through time in a very strange way that I know John and I both have said is very jarring.
Yeah, I said it was trippy. Like, it's weird to go from just going through SNL history, and everything is pretty good. So we haven't hit a bad episode in the countdown so far. I don't think we will. But Jared, I mean, you got a chance to catch up on where we have been so far. So your thoughts overall on these last 8 episodes that we talked about?
Yeah, I mentioned to Bill earlier, evil James T. Kirk might tell us all to get a life, but I'm really enjoying this amazing TV show. Seeing, even discovering new stuff like Michael Jordan pretending to advertise tampons, to I haven't seen Conan O'Brien's episode with him being the molecular man. So I'm having a great time here. This has been a very fun list, and I'm excited for what comes next.
I was very excited to reveal the 4 episodes coming up to you here. So if you are a patron of the Saturday Night Network, obviously you can join us on a show like Jared. So the sign-up form is available now at patreon.com/the SNL Network. We also had these episodes available to you on Patreon for the week that we are discussing with them. So coming up, we'll have the 4 episodes we revealed tonight over at Patreon, and I'll put those up later today. So I hope you can enjoy them and follow along with the countdown. All right, guys, are we ready to reveal the next episode in this countdown list? Bill, you alluded to it earlier on. So this is, for the first time, we're going to be talking about an episode here from a host that we've already talked about before. And I can promise you, I did not pay anybody to put this guy back on the countdown so soon. But the fans have spoken. And here we go. From May of 2011, season 36 finale. Let's talk about Justin Timberlake's episode with music from Lady Gaga. And so much to discuss here. This is Justin's 4th time hosting. We're going reverse chronologically to talk about JT. But, this one makes the countdown only a couple slots after his last episode. So, Bill, Kenny, let's get some overall thoughts here.
Well, this is a fork in the road, because as I kind of said last week, it's really hard to parse through somebody who's hosted a lot. And, JT's done it 5 times. When we get in, I'm sure we'll get into Steve, Alec, Buck Henry, like, to say which episode is the best. And last week, we spent a lot of praise on the season 38 Justin episode. This is so much better. Like, this is incredible. And I knew that in my head, but watching them in back-to-back weeks, it was like, oh yeah, I can see why this would be a little bit higher. Maybe should be even higher than this, but we'll see if we get other JTs. I'm sure John didn't make any of that happen.
I swear I did not. I only had one vote.
No.
But this is the one that I think it's interesting because, again, it like you said, it's hard to parse through. It's probably easier with JT versus some of the people who've hosted more because he's only hosted 5 times. And there is a little bit of a sequence to them where you get like the Dick in the Box guys and you sort of see their path and their storyline throughout the episode. So I think that makes it easier to parse of like, oh yeah, this is the one with 3-way in it. But we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the moments, because as Bill said, when you watch it, you see how great this one is. Jared, your overall thoughts on this episode?
I feel like we need to get Mike in here to go over the numbers for this, because Lady Gaga might as well be a co-host in this episode with the amount that she appears. And that's one of my favorite things, when the music guest is in sketches, and she's in plenty with this. And looking into each of these sketches, apparently, I guess all of them are recurring in this episode. So now I'm curious to go back in time to see where they came from. And we know some of the forward in time, like What's That Name? Like we had this season with John Mulaney, and it took me a while I was like, oh yeah, Tim Kaine, I remember him. So that sketch is hilarious in this. But yeah, this is an awesome episode. It's definitely list worthy.
Yeah, so I'll take you back to 2011 and just my experience with this episode, which is that This is the first season for me actually out of high school. Will Forte, my favorite cast member, had just left the show. And I started to get that feeling that I think anyone at home can relate to if you're a big fan of like, is this the end of my SNL? And I think that season 36 is definitely, you could even maybe lump in parts of 35 with that and parts of 37, where it's like this sort of like era that's the tail end of the third golden era, where not every episode is as consistently good as what we were getting in 32, 33, and 34. And here, what we get in the finale of season 36 is obviously a host who knows what he's doing, who can help take over the show, but everyone really brings it. And I think in more modern times, Bill, with some of the seasons we covered over the last few years, there's a lot of like, well, it's the end of the season, so let's just, sort of peter out on what's happening. But like, I think that one of the great things I love about this episode in particular is it does remind me a lot of what Buck Henry was doing with the original cast, where you get a guy who's coming in and you're like, all right, we know we have a great person to end this season on a high as we head towards the summer.
Yeah, definite senioritis that we get in a lot of SNL finales, especially in modern times, as you said. It is very Buck Henry-esque, because you wonder if the cast can see, like, this hasn't been the greatest of years, but we know that we're going to get a Vil. We know that we're going to get a digital short. We know, so they've upped their writing game. They may have saved some things, knowing that JT was going to come in towards the end of the season here, and they do. Everybody is on their game by far. And Lady Gaga, I have an interesting history with her, and I did not like her at this point in time. And I was not a fan of Poker Face or any of the music that was coming out a couple years before this. So I wasn't real thrilled when this was announced. I think this is where I became a fan of hers, not by her music, but because of her being on SNL and seeing what she could do with JT.
Yeah, personally, like I feel like through this episode, I was clamoring for Gaga to host. She then would go on to host a few years later, and I don't think it matched the potential that she could have. And then she ends up having that episode, I think, in season 50 that we all saw in season 36. And we were like, wow, she could totally do this. But yeah, I just remember. So personally, I remember this night when this aired. I was at a friend's house. They were having a house party, and everyone knew that Justin Timberlake was hosting SNL that night. And literally TV was on. There was a ton of people. We all had drinks. We were watching. And like every time something came on, it was like when you're at a concert and they're playing one of the hits. Like we just saw, and like, again, like you're talking to the guy who loves JT on SNL, but so it's easy for me to say this, but just truly like the experience in the room when I was watching this one was unbelievable, as it was just moment after moment of like, okay, this is going to be a really epic episode. And I'll say, Jared, that I think, and we'll get to those moments in a bit, but I think that this episode is not only great because of Justin Timberlake and not only great because of Lady Gaga, but this is one of the greatest Bill Hader episodes in his career, who towards the end started ascending towards that Mount Rushmore. And I think that this is one of them where you're like, if you're just going to submit an episode for a cast member for consideration for the Hall of Fame, Bill Hader has an unbelievable night here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wish I could reach through my camera, take your mic, and bump you in the face with it, because Herb Welch is hilarious in all of his sketches. But yeah, especially this one with a lower key Justin Timberlake playing, I think it's an art teacher with that. But yeah, he's great as that. He's their game show host guy, and he's also hilarious in that Love Tunnel one as well. So yeah, Bill Hader's one of the greats, and yeah, this is definitely submission worthy.
So as we do every single week, we will start an episode by talking about an absolutely iconic moment that is so memorable that may have put an episode on the countdown. Bill, I don't think we have one here necessarily. Like, is there something that you're like, okay, this is it, this is the one we have to start with, or should we go through the rundown step by step?
I think the only one you could possibly talk about would be the digital short, because of the end of the trilogy. But I mean, we can go chronologically short.
Yeah, see, as much as I love it, and we'll talk about it in a second, I don't think I want to save these times where we talk about the iconic moments first. And as great as it is, I think we got to hold ourselves to a high standard of being like, okay, we got to start here. So we'll see throughout the countdown tonight if we're going to get that. So let's start at the beginning. So a very like unique cold open, I'd say, with something that I don't think a lot of people would remember now. But there was this guy, Dominic Strauss-Kahn, who was the managing director of the International Monetary Fund in 2011. He has some sort of allegation that he sexually assaulted a hotel maid in May of 2011, and we get to see him in jail alongside Keenan and Jay Farrow, who's Jay was in his first season. We get to see Taron Killam in this as well, and it's a nice moment for the rookies to be in there, the season finale cold open. And you sort of have this like interesting juxtaposition in this cold open of like these two guys who look like they're gonna sort of beat up the guy in jail, except they really just want to talk to him about money and about the things that happened in the scene, ultimately culminating with that final line of like, well, we're going to rape you now. And so it's like a very, I'd say, different cold open than a lot of the things that were happening around this era. But Bill, let's talk about it for a second. Is there anything here, or is this so separate from the rest of the episode?
Bitch, I got no love for Portugal. I mean, what brings kids to the TV more than talking about European economics? Like this is, exactly. But he was a big name at the time. The whole Greece maybe going out of business as a country was a huge deal. And Taron's great with no words. He just kind of sits there silently. He does facial expressions, but I don't know that this is something that I would pull out to show people, but everybody does a fine job.
Do you agree, Jared?
Yeah, more power to Taron for not breaking during this sketch with Jay and Keenan's back and forth, especially with that Portugal line you just mentioned, or the all the Germans need to smile is half a sausage and a carton of milk. And it made me remember, the Greek bankruptcy. I remember that. And that's like, the life. It's great how these are time capsules and you remember what was going on at that time.
I would say a bit of an unmemorable cold open in what ends up being a pretty great episode. So something that if you're looking to put together or parse through the episodes we'll be talking about here, not as epic as some of the other cold opens on this countdown. We do get to a monologue, though, that I think is extremely notable, where, Justin's going to come out, talk about how he is not doing double duty tonight, though he's done it in the past. Gaga's here. So, of course, he's not going to sing. And, we do sort of get this back and forth of like, there's no pressure for him to be here. And then he's going to end up singing about being at Saturday Night Live. And though this may seem like generic Justin Timberlake singing, he will actually go on to win an Emmy for this monologue here, written by John Mulaney and Seth Meyers, who put this together with Justin. So I think just on that alone, Bill, it's pretty notable.
It is, although he references that he's always been the musical guest and he wasn't the last time either, but that's fine. We'll let that slide. Sierra, this is a song that kind of sticks with you through the years. It's up there with a couple of Jack Black ones that we've gotten. That's kind of an earworm even all these years later. I have no problem with this. It's interesting to think about when they approach these people to host. Like, do they ask if they want to do double duty, John? Do you think that's always the case with somebody like a JT? Like, do you want us to get a musical guest or do you want to do it yourself?
Well, I think part of it just was that he wasn't really releasing music around this time. He was really focusing on acting. So I think if you're going to get Justin in the building, unless he's going to play the old hits, that's why. Like, I think when he hosts with Sierra as the musical guest for his third time, Love, Sex, Magic, they performed together because that's the song they had on the charts, but there was nothing really with JT and Gaga. And it wasn't until the episode we talked about last week that he has that, album that the 2020 experience that he comes back with. So like, I think that's part of it is like, you have a guy who you want to have as part of your core cast in his prime as an SNL host. And like, you just have to have him back regardless. So I think having Gaga there, who was at the height of her powers of like, just, even though, like you said, Bill, maybe not everybody's favorite, but certainly like becoming this megastar. And I think it's a no-brainer to do what they did here. So Jared, any thoughts on his monologue?
Yeah, and the episode that you sent us, I guess he was in his everybody remembers his classic movie Friends with Benefits, so that's what was out in the zeitgeist at that time. But it's, as you mentioned with your friends, when you have Justin Timberlake, you want to see him do Justin Timberlake things. So that's him singing, being jazzy, being emotional. I guess one note I took, and I was curious if either of you guys know, the lady that he sang to in the audience, was that a writer or was that a legit, like, shocked audience member?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I would say it's probably a plant. So I would think it's somebody who is probably either interning at the show or like works in a department, but not like high up enough that you would recognize them. Because I've seen, I think it's when Justin Bieber like sings to the audience. I think like one of them is like Lauren's daughter or something like that. Like
that.
there's like a few cases where they like find someone who's a friend of the show in there, because most of the time, if you have someone sitting in the audience and then they're going to do a bit, they'll like pull them out and have them stand at the back and then put them back in the chair after that bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll also say, look, it is really cool that he won the Emmy for this. I've always found this monologue fun. I definitely prefer the "I think I know my way around" from his third time. That's for me like a personal favorite of his monologues. We're then going to head over to another Vil sketch that like similar to what we talked about last week, but this time we're going to see Kristen. So no Will Forte, and no longer in the cast, but we'll see Kristen Wiig opposite of JT and his Liquorville sketch, and a lot of back and forth here, and we'll start to see. Kristen, basically the big joke with Kristen is that she's like overtly sexual, talking about teabagging during the sketch. And then we'll see Gaga join JT for this one. And right away, Jared, like, that Lady Gaga is going to be a big part of this episode once you see her in the sketch.
Yeah, it definitely tracks, because this is the era of the meat costume and all the other weirdness of Lady Gaga. So her coming out dressed as a cork with a couple wine glasses definitely tracks for her, and I think she really heightened the sketch, actually.
Definitely. These sketches, I love the I love like the swagger that JT brings to it. I'm like a huge music buff, like I talked about last week. So for me, like whenever I'm always like very excited to see what he's going to do next. I think for this one, in retrospect, like as fun as it was at the time to hear him do like a lot of like 2011, 2010 songs, I do like it when he like put some throwbacks in there. I think the only one, Bill, that he did was Everybody in the Club Getting Tipsy. I think that's the Jaquan song that he did from 2004, but like otherwise, like it was mostly songs from around that time.
Well, and they end on "Endless Love" by Lionel Richie and
true.
So there you do have that. But yeah, you're right. I do like when it's sprinkled with more classic songs. I mean, really, the only thing that makes this kind of notable is the fact that he's, working with Gaga on this one, as opposed to it just being a mono a womano. So yeah, Kristen fills in admirably. Obviously, Forte was the king with these with JT. So, but I think she does a fair job.
Yeah, she does a decent job with her harp and singing about teabagging, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it definitely makes me laugh. It was like another solid rendition of this recurring sketch. Then we head over to a Herb Welch sketch, or the WXPD News New York, where we get to see co-anchor persons played by Jason Sudeikis and Nassim Pedrad, Jack Rizzoli, and Wanda Ramirez, who head over to Herb Welch, the very, very old reporter who is always there to talk to and interview somebody. And he thinks that he basically is not living in reality anymore, as he thinks that it's really 50 years earlier. And there's a lot of great bits. And this is just a Bill Hader tour de force as he continues to like smack people in the head with microphones, yell at Wanda Ramirez. Some of the lines in these are unbelievable, Bill, as I get to just admire and fall in love with Bill Hader again as I watch this.
Oh, so great. Third time we get this. Still no diminishing returns. Do you think Lucille Ball's a pinko? Like, just
I know. I had to Google that again. I had to be like, what's a pinko again?
Oh, no. Yeah, this is great. I think JT plays very well with this. And Herb Welch never disappoints. That face that he makes when he dies is classic Hader. So never get sick of these. Just like the Vils, never really get sick of these, no matter how many times they trot them out.
And what's so great, crazy, Jared, is like in this episode, like we have a character that Bill Hader plays so well, who you will absolutely pity out of like the time he is in his life. And then he will also play a character later in this episode who is so great at pitying everyone around him. And it's just like that complete contrast between him and the host of What's That Name just shows you how incredible of a performer Bill was at this time. But some of these lines are unreal, like the "they burn my friend" or the "suck an egg, you mannequin," as he says to
Sudeikis. Yeah.
So good, Jared.
Yeah, and I'll admit he tricked me. I thought that was a dummy they brought out near the end there, and then when he finally lurches back to life, man, I definitely laughed out loud. Yeah, Herb Welch is a classic.
It's so good. It's really great. And it's one of those that like I never get tired of seeing. So if we are so lucky to get Bill Hader back on the show again one day, I would love to see Herb Welch. This was the third Herb Welch out of 6 that we would end up getting, including from his hosting stint in October of 2014. So good stuff here. And again, like this isn't a JT sketch. Like this is a Bill Hader sketch that JT just happens to solidify. And I think that's like sort of the buck quality of JT in this episode, that he just really comes in and fulfills what we're looking at here. We're going to get that later with another sketch. But now we'll head over to obviously a JT staple, which is the third in a trilogy of digital shorts. So we will have Dick in a Box in 2006, then we'll get Mother Lover in 2009. And everyone is watching and waiting for, will we see the Dick in a Box guys come back for the third? And it really was the third, as we got to hear about the golden rule, where we found out that it's okay if it's in a 3-way. As we saw Lady Gaga join Andy Samberg and Justin Timberlake in a song that is a complete bop. So much fun. We'll also get the appearances of Patricia Clarkson and Susan Sarandon completing the storyline that we get in that second episode. Bill, just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they got Patricia and Susan for a 2-second cameo, wordless cameo, is really, really cool to see. Yeah, what can you say? We debated these on the Superfan episode about digital shorts. I'm not sure where I put these 3 in order as far as which one I like better. Let's just say I love All My Children equally, and we'll just call it at that. This is really a lot of fun. Did you have to Google Bartles and James, John? I wonder if you.
I don't know if I did.
He rolled up to his girl's crib with some Bartles and James.
I don't think I've ever. I got that.
That's an 80s drink, man. That's a wine cooler back in the day. So they're keeping it in the 80s and 90s with these digital shorts. So I love that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll say like, so the musically the song is like really great. I think that the subject matter is like a little bit different here, and it's interesting because like they're expanding the boundaries of their relationship, which I think is like fun, but also like, again, for me watching this live, I was like so excited to be like, what song am I going to be singing every day outside of my car as I drive around? Because like Dick in a Box and even Mother Lover like weren't this is so crazy. But when I'm driving down the street, Jared, and I'm yelling, it's okay if it's in a 3-way, like I'm gonna get arrested.
Even in Toronto? I didn't realize the rules were that stringent.
In Montreal, actually, it's worse.
Oh, Montreal. Oh, that's right. That's where you grew up. Yeah, I completely forgot these were chronological. I think my favorite part of the video or of the digital short is just their outfits throughout it, wearing those bright 90s colors on their jackets. I'm just like, remembering with that. But yeah, this was very entertaining, especially having Gaga in there as their third.
Yeah, it's so good. And also like there is a really interesting point in the song where like it just all stops and Gaga's like turns on the lights and the two of them are there like in the bed and she's like, you guys having fun? Like it's very fun. It was a great time to get to see this come back again. And thanks Casey in the chat also reminding me that Bartles and James were actually impersonated on Saturday Night Live. And like now that's all coming back to me with A. Whitney Brown and Phil Hartman back in season 12. We talked about Gaga's music just a little bit. So some big performances here that I think a lot of people remember. She does the duo performance of Edge of Glory and Judas. And then she will do Born This Way, which is obviously like a huge hit of the time later on. Jared, anything here on Gaga's music?
Yeah, it usually takes me about like 10 to 15 seconds when Lady Gaga starts a song and then I need to reorient and figure out what the heck's going on. and like just adjust to the costume, because in that Edge of Glory, she's wearing like this. If you ever seen the movie poster for Amadeus, it's like the guy with the fan on his head, and she has that fan with like these eyes. And I'm just figuring out like what does this have to do with the song? I'm like, I mean, I like the song, but I didn't get the costume. And then throws it off, goes into Judas with that. The one thing I couldn't also, I was trying to figure out, like, I don't know if it's a Gagaism or not, but she keeps grabbing her mic to sing into it. So like that song was really dance intense. So I would not be surprised if the mic was falling off and she had to do that. But yeah, she's definitely a great talent. So I really enjoyed these performances.
For sure. I could definitely appreciate what was happening here at the time. I knew how big she was. I knew how big these songs were. It wasn't my cup of tea, these songs. Like, there's a lot of Gaga music that I definitely prefer. But I thought that the performances were really strong here. Clearly, giving JT a run for his money, just as far as like being in all of these sketches, being in a digital short, doing performances where she's just building it up slowly and then dancing like crazy. So yeah, good stuff from Gaga here for music. We get to Weekend Update. We're going to get a solo really from Seth Meyers, which is a little unusual to see. Usually he's always with most probably Amy Poehler. I think he did one with Kermit, one with who was Jerry Seinfeld as well. But he will do a solo really here about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He'll also do Get in the Cage opposite, where you're going to have Bradley Cooper make a cameo opposite Andy Samberg's Nick Cage, and then an appearance from Stefan at the end as they ride off into the summer together, which is a bit of a prequel to the storyline we will get throughout season 37 and then into season 38 ultimately. Bill, your thoughts on Weekend Update from this episode?
Boy, we just can't escape the Orange Menace, huh? This is the first joke.
Right.
Dear God. And it's about him. He would have won. And it's kind of funny to think that this fever dream really started with Seth at the correspondence dinner, making fun of him, and it coming down to him talking about not even winning his time slot. But other than that, yeah, I mean, the Arnold and the maid are definitely of its time. Imagine that being a scandal today. And to Get in the Cage, it's pretty good at this point. It's becoming who they can get to go in the cage with him as opposed to Andy's impression. But yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I was taken right out of it, right with the Trump joke immediately.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
honestly, it's not crazy like just because like you can lean however you want to politically when you're watching this. It's just like one of those like really crazy time capsule moments where in May 21st, 2011, obviously no one knew what would happen over the next 14 years. But just to watch Seth Meyers at the start of this say that Trump, who was considering running for the 2012 presidential election, said that he decided not to run, but he would have won. And then there's a joke made about him, like there's no way that he could have won. And it's like one of those things that like just knowing what will happen eventually in 2016, especially on Saturday Night Live with all the jokes about him not winning, it's like, whoa, like this is like way earlier than this should actually be happening. It's very trippy to watch. Jared, but overall update, I mean, really solid update here too.
I wrote it down. Despite announcing he wouldn't run for president, but he would have, but if he would have won the primary and general election. That's a bold claim because he's not even winning his time slot. Oh man, that hits differently in 2025. It certainly does. And again, this is also a good time capsule because you remember like Osama bin Laden had just been killed. There was the planking trend going on. They do something with gender reveal cakes, which I guess were newer at that time. And now we know all these gender reveal videos. As far as Getting the Cage goes, I like Andy Samberg's Nicolas Cage impression, but none of them really top it for me other than the time he was there with the real Nicolas Cage. I don't think that was Getting the Cage. That might have been just him playing Cage next to Cage, but I guess it kind of hit, but I've seen better out of him.
Agreed. I felt like this was just a fun thing to put on Update and a solid way to get Andy into the show, who wasn't really too much a part of the live sketches in this night, but obviously had a big role in the digital short as well. We're going to do What's That Name right after Weekend Update. And this to me, I mean, I think every edition of What's That Name is epic in its own way. That first one is a lot of fun that will happen about a year earlier. But this one where we get What's That Name Celebrity Edition is so good, where we have Justin Timberlake comes out and he's just having some fun. We have Bill Hader, who is masterclass as the game show host here, opposite him, just having some fun, ribbing him some back and forth. And then we get sort of the game early on where Gaga is going to reveal that she knows somebody. Well, first we're going to find out that Justin Timberlake doesn't know somebody who he slept with recently. They made love at the W Hotel and told her to never give up on her photography. Her name's Cheyenne. Doesn't remember it. But then we're going to find out that Gaga has this Paul Simon-esque quality to her, where Bill, you were going to say the same thing.
Yeah. And I thought you're referring to season 12, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a sketch where, very famously, where Paul Simon like knows every single one of his fans. Like no one could believe like how he remembers every person that went to his concert. So it is there's a little fun there where she remembers Alphonse, the guy who and his wife, of course. And then Justin Timberlake says like, I think that this game show is awful. And Bill Hader has that turn of like, I think you're awful, which I've been quoting for the previous 14 years. And just the back and forth that will ultimately culminate in the fact that Justin cannot remember one of his bandmates in NSYNC, Chris Kirkpatrick, who he ends up calling Shardy. And the lines here are hit after hit after hit. And just like it goes to show you, Bill, the power of John Mulaney and Bill Hader when they get a great host in the building to have some fun with. It is just like all types of magic.
Yes, and winning $10 for knowing MC Scat Cat, but if you can remember the girl's name, it's $100,000. Yeah, poor Chris Kirkpatrick, right? I mean, you were an NSYNC fan, right, John? So like
I was a big NSYNC fan. So
yeah,
for me,
that really has to hurt when I mean, he's about 8 years into his solo career now. He's blown up more than any of these guys ever would, and it's definitely a job. I wonder what Chris thought about it that night. But
I think a huge mistake on the show. Like this sketch is a 9 out of 10. It would have been a 10 out of 10 if they got the real Chris Kirkpatrick to be
right.
In the sketch.
Yes. Maybe he couldn't get the night off from Subway. Oh, I'm sorry. No, listen. No, this is great. Another one where they don't really get old to me. I think they find a new angle on these every time they bring them back. I think they've only done them 4 times. So it's not brought back too much. So I think this is really great.
Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic.
And shout out to Abby Elliott. She did a really good job with her jilted lover thing and delivering her lines throughout this as well.
Everyone's so good at it. The timing on Gaga, like when she's like holding it together and then blurting out responses, like that's something that you get really from like a seasoned host on the show. And then, she says she's like, I think JT says he's playing for the Hope Foundation. He doesn't know what it is. And then she says she's playing for the people of Japan. And then Bill delivers this like unbelievable line of like, of course, playing for any other charity would just be a slap in the face. And like, it is something that I think that there's almost no other performer in the history of the show could do what Bill Hader does in this sketch. Even the I'll give every charity on earth $10 million if you can get this right. So much fun here. To me, this is again, it doesn't have that iconic status, but to me, this is one of the great sketches of the era. We'll then go to another sketch that I referenced earlier, which is not like a JT focused sketch, but it could show you that sometimes if the show decides to lay off on the JT heavy stuff and put him in other people's sketches, he's still just as good. And here we go, him alongside Bill Hader and Taron Killam for the Maryville Love Tunnel sketches, which were a big part of season 36 and one of like Taron's first things that he sort of got on the show, where he is these animatronic performers that are there and the ride breaks down. And this time we'll get Jason Sudeikis, who will be with his girlfriend as the ride breaks down and gets sort of like upset and weirded out by what's happening here opposite Nasim Pedrad. So Jared, was it fun for you to revisit the Maryville Love Tunnel?
Oh yeah, it was a great time. I guess the sketch that I would compare it to maybe in the future, though a little bit different, was the Aziz Ansari Pizza Town one where they're playing the animatronic robots. Different circumstance, but yeah, they Bill, Taron, and JT do a great job with playing the robots and pulling off their scheme of stealing Nasim for the end of it. And then like at the end, when you see him walk off, like you see JT's got like some bye vibes going on there, because it's sort of like the marionette thing. It's similar, I guess, being an animatronic, whatever he is, and the bye thing. That just brought that to mind. But yeah, I laughed a lot at this sketch. This was personally my favorite sketch of the night.
Oh, that's really interesting to hear. Because I think these sketches are always good. They only did them 3 times in an era where they would really beat down hard on sketches that were working. But the hosts that were in these sketches, Jim Carrey, JT, Bruno Mars, who hosted one of my favorite episodes ever. Tom Hanks was in that Bruno Mars one. Like, they picked some really strong performers to be in this one, and I think it's just the level of like matching up and being able to perform as an animatronic performer, I think is like probably like higher. It's like going skiing and like finding a black diamond. And I think like that's what you get here. So you have to have a good host to pull it off. And I think they do a great job with this, Bill.
Yeah, I think this is the forgotten one out of the 3. As you said, like the Jim Carrey one is epic. The one with Bruno is epic because of Tom Hanks coming in the same night he does David S. Pumpkins. But this is great. I'm obsessed with these. I love the physicality of the way they do these robots. And this may be one of my favorite of the night as well. So, nothing more to add other than that. I think it's interesting to think about how much they overdid stuff in this era, and they didn't do it with this.
Yeah, it's very weird that they didn't do this more. I mean, in a way, it probably makes them more epic, but this is a Rob Klein, Ken Sublette sketch alongside Taryn. We're going to get a secret word next. And I will say, as somebody who absolutely loves this era and many of the recurring sketches, I was never a fan of secret word. It never worked for me. So unfortunately, this is my like one personal dud of the episode. I think that Kristen like has fun chewing the scenery, but overall, like these never fully click for me. Do they work for either of you?
No, speaking of things they overdid, like this is the 5th of 10 times they do this. Like, and the joke was fine the first time, maybe the second time. By the 5th time, I was out, Jared.
Yeah, I'll admit I haven't seen all of the secret word sketches, so some of these are like the first or second time I'm ever seeing a sketch. Now, when I watch all, however many, what is it now, 988, you said?
Yeah.
Episodes, once I, like turn 60 and get through all that, I'll appreciate it more. But yeah, with secret word, Kristen worked for me in talking about all these really obscure and weird Broadway roles and being like, oh, it's Boots. Beep. Yeah. JT is a bad magician. So, I guess. I laughed at Kristen's stuff, not as much JT. And Bill Hader, of course. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it's just, I never liked it because, again, like all the people in this sketch are really good. Like Bill Hader is, I think, always the best part of these sketches. But Kristen, who does put on like some funny little bits in her performances, like she elevates this more than most people would be able to. But I think there's something like theatrical about it that doesn't necessarily appeal to me. Like if someone's like a real theater buff, I think maybe like this slightly works more. But that's like all packaged in a sketch that is truly like about someone not knowing how to play password. And they never change the bit. Like it will always be that she's going to say the secret word. And again, like, I just don't know how many times you can do that. The first time I saw it, I was probably like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny, like whatever. But then it never got to a level that I wanted it to. So again, as someone who just truly fights for this era, I cannot defend this one. And I would love if there's, secret word fans out there, let us know. But I do love the Barry Gibb Talk Show every time. I think it's one of the greatest theme songs in the history of Saturday Night Live, opening this up. Jimmy Fallon cameos here alongside JT. So we get the duo back together for this sketch to wrap up the night. And these kill me every time. Like I try and be like, I've seen this so many times, but there's just something about it. If this episode pops up on the countdown, we'll talk about it. But there's another JT episode where Barry Gibb Talk Show appears in it, and the sketch prior to it going into Barry Gibb Talk Show, I think is like one of the most epic moments in the history of the show in terms of like building off of hype. I almost wish, Bill, that they didn't leave this sketch for the end of the night. Like I would have reordered it in a way, because I think that like there's something about this sketch that really like hypes me up personally.
Yeah, and one of Fallon's better moments on the show, even though he's not even on the show anymore. I think we talked about that a little bit last year. This always works for me as well. I really enjoy the concept of these two 70s disco singers just completely in their same voices, doing the voices they do in all their songs, interviewing people of the world in politics and government. So covering the China economic disaster and things like that. It's just so ludicrous, but it works. And you see the chemistry between JT and Fallon here for sure.
Definitely. It's like one of those things that like when Jimmy starts saying something and JT does like the high pitched background repeating of what he's saying, it just kills me every single time. And I think, Jared, it's also the tension in these sketches of like, I never know which new way that a panelist is going to piss off Barry Gibb. And just like, you know, like the phone starts ringing, he's going to go absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, really good stuff here.
Yeah. I enjoyed this overall. I'll have to watch all of the. I've seen a couple Barry Gibb ones, not all of them, and I don't honestly know that much about the Gibb brothers, like because they're real. They're from the Bee Gees, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure about that. The only thing I couldn't figure out in the sketch, like, what was the point of having Keenan, and I forget who played Rachel Maddow. It was either Abby or Nassim.
Abby.
Because they like pretty much like Keenan doesn't do anything, and Abby, I think, like takes a sip of water and pisses off Fallon, but I think that's about it. So I wasn't really sure why they were there, but I mean, yeah, the taking the two medallions and shocking them back that made me laugh quite a bit, especially, and of course the very hairy chest. Yes, that made me laugh quite a bit.
I think it's just that it's supposed to be like one of those really boring political talk shows where you're just going to get like very boring politicians who are sitting around having a good time talking about politics. And but it is just in the world of like an egomaniacal musician who's going to go absolutely crazy when something doesn't go away alongside his brother Robin. And I think, you know, that to me is always really funny, just to see like Fred Armisen just as another politician just like sit there and have to take what he's getting from Jimmy Fallon, who again, you know, Bill and I talked about this previously, like is doing some of the best work that he's done on the show in years every time he pops up in something like this. So yeah, very fun way to end the night. I do think that these things are like really, really high in terms of it. It's an interesting sketch to end a season on, and certainly watching it live, I remember being very excited about it. So overall, this is a really fascinating, fun episode to talk about. Bill, let's get your overall thoughts. Did this deserve to make the list at 42? Are you happy with the spot here?
I think it deserves to make it. Now watch if we get JT again next week. I have no idea if we do, but if we get him next week, it'll be like, oh, this one's even better. So like we're going backwards in time with JT. But yes, this is definitely better than season 38. The addition of Gaga kind of ups the ante. Bonus points for great musical performances by her and being in so many sketches. So yeah, I think this deserves to make the list.
Jared, how about you?
Yeah, I guess throughout this, I guess maybe John, you're the Simon, Bill, you're the Randy, and I'm probably going to end up being the Paula Abdul here of the judges, just because I see everything. I need to learn to be a little more critical, but yeah, I love this episode from start to finish. Just a lot of laughs, and I'm very happy it was on the list, and very curious to see if JT or Gaga's episodes appear farther down the road.
I truly love this episode, not only because I love Justin Timberlake and he's my favorite host of all time, and I think it's so great to get him back here, but I think I really love this episode because of when it takes place. He has those epic moments like at the peak of this era, but this is an episode that takes place at a moment where I think things are a little bit on edge. There's people who have left who are stars of this era, and there's people who are headed towards leaving. Again, you know, in May 2011, we didn't know if Kristen Wiig and Andy Samberg were going to be coming back, let alone Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, Jason Sudeikis. Like, we didn't know. Like, it was the start of all of those talks and of like, can they hold on to this thing one last time? And I think that season 36 has those good episodes. It has some bad episodes. It's a little bit probably more inconsistent than what we were used to. And this is an epic finale to show that the show has still got it and still has some of that momentum that they had just a couple seasons earlier when they were winning like a ton of Emmys and really feeling like SNL was at the peak of its powers. I think that that's why this one definitely deserves to be in the top 50 greatest episodes of all time. All right, guys. 42 in the books. Let's talk about what we're going to get next year at 41, which is another episode that I think people would be very excited to talk about. This is a host that a lot of you out there love, and I'm very pumped to get to talk through one of his episodes. Let's head back in time from 2011 to 2003, season 28, episode 13, hosted by the great Christopher Walken, with music from Foo Fighters. Did I do it okay, Bill? Is it good? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Here we go. 41 on the list. Christopher Walken and Foo Fighters here from February 2003. An episode that I actually think is really interesting to compare to the JT episode, where we're sort of headed towards the end of another era. And this is one that ends up showing that SNL is in an okay place. But a lot of interesting things happen in this episode, Bill Kenny.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to talk about this one. We get this unbelievable host. We'll get into these tremendous cameos a little bit later in the episode. And you've got one of the greatest musical guests in the history of SNL in Foo Fighters. So yeah, again, here we are with somebody who hosts a lot. So it'll be interesting to see where they fit into the menagerie of this whole thing. But this is a fantastic episode from beginning to end. So I'm really, really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, Jared, what do you think of this one here at 41, Christopher Walken and Foo Fighters?
Yeah, having the great Christopher Walken. I mean, this is after his cowbell episode. This is a lot of Christopher Walken being Christopher Walken, and I enjoy me some Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I think, we talked about this last season when Walken ended up being in the top 10 greatest hosts of all time. These are so much fun. If you've never watched these, you need to watch the Walken episodes to get Christopher Walken on Saturday Night Live, because he is a guy that is put in sketches or written for in sketches alone for the way that he delivers lines. And that's just it, right? Like, he's just so Walken-esque at the way that he does things that it makes the sketches what they are. Like, there's no one else who can do the things that he does in them. You're going to see that in this episode. You would see that in other episodes that perhaps will end up on this countdown. But this is really, really fun. Bill, I guess the question for you is do we have that iconic moment here?
I think we have. See, you put the pressure on me, John, saying what is iconic. In the last one we just talked about, I think there's two iconic sketches in this one.
Okay. I'll argue one, but you go ahead. Yeah.
I think Pranksters.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's good.
I think that's
let's start there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start there, because I would say that Pranksters is not a conventionally iconic sketch. However, it is an absolute all-time great sketch. It is. Yep. But it's one of those, like, almost like it's a little Wake Up and Smile-esque, where I think the general public does not know this sketch exists. But Seth Meyers often talks about how before he was a Weekend Update anchor, he sucked in sketches. I think this is like his best thing that he ever did before he became a Weekend Update anchor, because he will write a sketch here, which is a kids show where people will come on and prank their brothers and sisters, and it's all very cute, until we get Christopher Walken coming on as Larry Hobson, who's going to take this to a whole other level as he kills people or beats them up, hits them with all types of tools, and doesn't really understand what pranking is. Seth Meyers, as the host, will freak out here, and Christopher Walken just plays this so dark, as he says that he just loves pranking people and he wants to prank them for hours in his basement. Jared, is this iconic to you in the way that it is to Bill?
Well, I'm not going to be stiffly Stifferson here on this sketch. To go back to Seth on here real quick, I mean, we all associate him now as a late night host, but we forget, like, he was a young dude at one point on this show, and I've never really seen him play a character with this much energy. So, like, you forget where he was. This is where he was at in his career. He was a young dude on the show. So I think he does a really good job playing like an MTV-esque kind of host for this sketch. And and then you have Christopher Walken being all nonchalant about just outright committing murder instead of, or thinking it's a prank. But yeah, this sketch is absolutely hilarious, and I think the whole world needs to know it exists.
Bill, tell people why they need to check this sketch out.
It is very Wake Up and Smile-esque, because you can hear the audience gasp at the moment, because you start off with Catan. I mean, if you go back to 2003, these prank shows are everywhere. You've got the Jamie Kennedy show, you've got Punked. So like this is a very low budget show that a lot of channels were putting on. So this fit of the moment. And you've got Catan doing the silly joke on his sister, which is still kind of disturbing. He takes a dead rat and puts it in her jewelry, but you know, it fits into that mold of, you know, a prank. And then Walken comes out. Seth references the fact that he's older than most of their pranksters, and they cut to the hidden camera of him beating the shit out of Parnes with the tire iron. Just and as you said, Seth is just horrified at what's happening here. The off-screen guy doing the Ted making the sound effects, even as we're dealing with murder live on television. So great. Just one of those moments that sticks out for me. And you know, they only do this twice. The other one is not great, if you remember that one, Jared, with De Niro. But this is an all-timer, and Walken helps elevate it.
Yeah, I'll admit I haven't seen the De Niro one yet, but yeah, after hitting such a high on this one, I really don't think you could top it. And yeah, all the sound effects throughout the thing, or throughout the sketch. I guess it's a precursor for, what is it, Darnell in the Heidi Gardner and Mikey Day sketches in the future with the like the one with Adam Driver. I can't remember the exact name of it right now, but yeah, but having like inappropriate sound effects at the best times, really heightens this sketch also.
Well, what I like is that it's like a little bit of a side game, right? So like the whole thing where the guy like doesn't you don't even see the sound guy. Like I think in a lot of sketches that they would do now, you would see the sound guy and he would be like, "Oh, sorry." But like him yelling at the guy off screen, I think is a really smart decision by Seth, and sort of shows his chops as a writer at the time, where he keeps everything like very contained in that 2-shot of Walken opposite Seth. And I think that's like, it's one of the elements that we will see throughout this countdown where we talk about what makes a truly epic sketch is like normal situations, something goes off the rails and there's a little bit of tension there. And I think that's the whole thing of like Seth is talking to Larry Hobson and just trying to keep it cool, but you just see the panic all over his face. He's dressed in like exactly how you would think he would dress in 2003 on a kids show, the highlights in his hair, like everything that's there that makes this seem like this should be the most innocent situation and that kids are watching at home. And I think that he really plays it up like, oh no, like there's people watching. And I think he just does that so well. So for me, I would say that this is a classic. Bill, I don't think it has iconic status because I don't know that, again, conventionally a lot of people talk about this one, but it certainly deserves to be like talked about the way that a lot of the other ones we're going to talk about on this.
John, you sound like you're being a Stiffly Stifferson. I don't like Stiffly Stiffersons, John.
No.
Yeah. It's truly great. But you said there's a second one, so I want to know which one you think that is.
Colonel Angus, I think, is one that boy, something like this can be done so poorly, can go off the rails or not be done correctly when all you're doing is playing with a word and a dirty word at that. But I think they really found a way with this to keep it fresh. And I mean, it's not a short sketch. You know, we get different entrances. We get different characters coming in throughout the whole thing. And again, audience recognition. I keep going back to that with these iconic moments. They don't get it the first time that it's said, but boy, the second time that it's said, everybody just kind of go, "Oh, okay." Yeah. I love this one.
Yeah, once Amy Poehler says it in her accent, you get where the sketch is going. And I feel like this isn't done as much in this day and age. This is definitely something that was done more in the 90s and 2000s. The thought that popped into my head was like, okay, which was there a writer who was like up at 4 a.m. on Wednesday, couldn't think of an idea, and it's like I keep saying these words, I'm like, hey, that kind of sounds like a sex thing, so just wrote a sketch.
This is a Tina Fey sketch, actually.
So. Oh, it's a Tina Fey. Okay, maybe I wonder if she thought of this, or if she was delirious at 4 a.m. and ended up writing this one or not.
Yeah, I think she writes this one with James Anderson. But
Okay.
it's one of those ones that I think is like, it's so good because they never really break in it. And I don't mean like break in
Nope.
terms of laugh. Like they never break the sequence of what they're going with. Like
Mhm,
everything really just like continues to be those sexual innuendos. Talking
mhm.
about Colonel Angus could be very messy. What brings you here? I'm
Yeah.
headed down south. Like all of the things as like you just and it becomes like a game for the audience. Like once you pick up the game at home, it becomes a game of like, okay, well, how are they going to continue to do this next? And they'll
Yep.
end up continuing to go until they get to the like the oh yeah, well, his real name is Anal Angus. And
Yep.
I think that it's such a good balance of like having that fun with Walken, who plays this really really well, just very calm, and everyone. I mean, Rachel Dratch in this is so
Yeah.
funny as the older woman on the chair. Jared, she's great.
Yeah, she's great. And I guess I learned in this sketch, once a woman is introduced to Colonel Angus, she'll settle for nothing less.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yes, I've learned that. And then we keep going because I think that what happens here is that people find out at the show how much they enjoyed something like this, and they will
Mhm,
end up trying to replicate the success of this sketch a few other times, including most notably the I want to say this right, the Cork Soakers sketch that we will get about a year later. So they will try this many times, but I don't think anything is as epic as this. And I will say, Bill, I agree. I do think that this moment is iconic. I think that this is enough to get this into the top 50. The episode, let's be real, is probably here because of the way Christopher Walken says Foo Fighters. But I think that once you check out this episode, you know just enough like how good this is. And then there's a lot of other really good stuff here to talk about. Like I think every time I watch this episode, I always forget how good it is. So let's go through the rest of the rundown and see how we feel about it after. Talk about hardball here. So this is Daryl Hammond's Chris Matthews, who was doing these sketches a ton at the time. And this is always like a really, really fun thing from Daryl, where he's going to actually have Christopher Walken. I mean, they're talking about the upcoming war in Iraq. So just, so you can place your where this episode was taking place. And then we have Christopher Walken come in as Dominique de Vipin. Bill, any memories of Christopher Walken saying live from New York to open up this episode?
Yeah, I always enjoyed these sketches because we talked about Daryl doing Ted Koppel a couple weeks ago. I think this is another one that he really nails. And as
yep.
someone who watched Hardball and Countdown with Keith Olbermann every night on MSNBC at this point, he had this down to a T. The whole idea, not only is it leading into the Iraq War, but everybody's mad at the French because they won't back us up. And this is when that whole freedom fries bullshit
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
started.
But yeah,
Yeah,
this is the Freedom
Oh
Prize.
yeah.
yeah. This
Yeah.
started that whole thing, and it's the best line of the sketch when Matthews pushes back on him and he says, the only two things your country has contributed in the last 50 years are Gerard Depardieu and that horny skunk. Like,
Pepe Le Pew. Yeah.
yeah. I think Walken's great here. We're seeing this a lot in these greatest episodes, as we saw with the greatest host last year. We're seeing a lot of hosts in the cold open. So I think that's kind of it's one of those smaller points that as we're parsing all of this, that's important to point out.
I agree. I think that's something that maybe is a characteristic of like, oh, this could be an epic episode here. And it was, watching this hardball, I was trying to place like, okay, which one was this? Because they did these a ton. Like I think they did over 20 hardball sketches. Like it was wild how many times that this opened the show and was a part of the show in some way. And I was wondering, are we going to get as a Forte as Zell Miller? But I think those come later on. I think those are in a later season of this because those were always the most memorable for me. This moment from Will Forte where he just screams so much that he's going red. But otherwise, this revolves around the performance of Daryl Hammond as Chris Matthews. And Daryl, we've interviewed him here on the SNN, and if you ever got to meet him, like is the most like timid, quiet, like almost like shy person, but to see him like come alive in his impressions and his characters is always really special for me. So fun way to open the show. Jared, anything else you wanted to say about the cold open?
Yeah. again, a very good time capsule. Some very good lines, like Bill mentioned, and Walken just saying, "I hate you. I'm bored." And then, yeah, the live from New York. It's Saturday night, and with him looking at the camera directly. Yeah, it's a solid open. I would say it's all right for me. It's all right. I think it's okay.
I think it's all right. I think also the monologue's probably the same thing here, where we're going to get something that is very typical of a Christopher Walken hosted episode, that he's going to do a song-a-log where he's going to, bring out the dancers and sing and perform. These are all pretty much the same thing. We'll also get something that's very typical of a Christopher Walken episode, which, by this point in his run, you've seen it before, but it's always fun to revisit an episode of The Continental. You get to hear Phil Hartman's voice as he opens it up. And this is one of those things where, probably puts Walken at the top of the greatest host list, that he could just run this whole sketch having fun opposite of somebody with the camera and holding their hand and all of the stuff here. So Bill, was there anything from this final Continental sketch that we are going to talk about?
Yeah, strangely doesn't do this in his final hosting gig a couple years later. But yeah, I mean, again, here we are with the French stuff again. He we're really bashing on the French. He normally has champagne and caviar, but he's offering combos, bugles, and ants on a log. Yeah, I mean, these are very samey, but he pulls it off, and the whole hand coming in, and as we see it in the Good Nights in this episode with the camera operator with the glove. Love that part, but yeah, and hearing Phil in the 2000s was great.
Yeah, I found a good YouTube video of the making of the Continental of this sketch, and you can see the camera person, with the arm and moving the camera and how it's all done. Yeah, the other notable thing I noticed in this sketch is that we all forget in our current era of like cleaner, more ubiquitous Snoop Dogg, that he used to do a lot more racier stuff in the past. So I don't know, the video that he pulls that is like a Girls Gone Wild thing with hosted by Snoop Dogg. So I'm like, oh yeah, he used to do that. And of course his line, it's the shiznit. I forget which accent he's doing in that, but yeah, it's the shiznit made me laugh a lot and remember that era.
I laughed a lot at the floor mirror that he had as he walks the woman up towards the end. He always finds a new way to be an absolute sicko in these. And I think per your point, Jared, about the Continental sketches, I believe that there are a couple episodes, I forget if it's this one, where I think Good Nights, we get to see the cameraman from the Continental sketches walk up to Christopher Walken, and as the credits are rolling, you see that there to reveal the game of it, which is a fun way to tie in somebody for watching from beginning to end. These are always so great. We're going to get a sketch called Raft Captain, which I think is one that is pretty lost to time, but Seth Meyers has talked about this one as well, about how in Forte and Armison's first season, the bond started to develop between Seth and them, which we'll obviously eventually see a few years down the road as we bring in more players from that cast. But here we're going to get the three of them on a raft lost at sea with Christopher Walken, who they're trying to determine who's going to be the raft captain. And Walken is playing the most ridiculous Walken-y role as he is just trying to vouch for the captain, Jared. It is so great.
Yeah, there's so many great Walken lines on this one of Christopher Walken just being Christopher Walken and trying to hit a bird with the paddle and saying lines like, "There's no stopping the bird attacks now." I can't do a Walken voice, but yeah, this is very, very Christopher Walken. So I think when it goes on Patreon, people are really going to love this one.
It's amazing, Bill. It's one of those ones, like I said, nobody will ever talk about it, but it is a really funny sketch.
I think when we compare somebody like Adam Driver today to Walken, this is kind of where it is, because it's one of those sketches that you can't imagine anyone else doing. Even other iconic, you can't imagine Baldwin on this boat. You can't imagine Tom Hanks on this boat. This is Walken. And
I think Adam Driver is maybe the closest you could think of something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would have to be somebody who's a baseline kind of weird. And as I'm cycling through my head, I can't really think of anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's full of great lines. We know that now.
Yeah, throwing the well, you know, like now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
throwing the last door at the bird, and sorry about all the gay stuff.
Yeah.
It's just-
And the cocaine.
Again, you remember the era, yeah, the
Right, yeah,
2003
yeah,
era,
exactly.
yeah.
But
It is really good.
this is
Yeah.
It's hidden in this episode, like among other things, but it is a very good sketch here, and it is one, like, if you're watching season 28, which is the first post Will Ferrell season, you're thinking like the show is in a weird place. Like for me, I always find that those season 28, 29, 30, like it's a slow descent into hell. And I think that like this is, this one is very similar to the JT one as far as like where it takes place, in that this is like the post era ish kind of getting there. You still have some people from some, who are really talented on the show, from an era where episodes were very solid week to week. And this is one of those like, oh, okay, we have something really good here and could be the best of this season. Next up, we'll have a sketch called African American Archives. And we interviewed Dean Edwards a few years back on SNL Stories. And he did talk about really trying to get this one on the show, where he did an impression of Don Cheadle, talking about the first time an African American man ever laughed at in a movie theater. And we're going to see the only appearance of Tracy Morgan in this one, sort of as like that still there. So if you want Dean's firsthand experience putting this one on screen, that's a great way to go check out that one. And then we do have a weekend update here, which to me, for sort of like a second half era Teen and Jimmy, is a really solid weekend update, which features Maya Rudolph as Christina Aguilera. We're going to get an appearance from Steve Martin, who hadn't been on the show since the premiere in 1998. So it had been like a while since we've seen Steve. And he talks about, he just wanted to make a cameo, very like meta moment, which is very typical of the Tina and Jimmy era. And then Will Ferrell's first appearance coming back after he left the cast, who he talks about how he lives on a farm now with his girlfriend, played by Britney Spears, who's coming off her first appearance, doing double duty on the show that everybody loved. And I just think that, like, Bill, this is a absolutely epic weekend update.
Yeah, in an era now that we're in where we get so many cameos, and I mean, we were headed in that direction at this point, but nothing this epic, as you said. Like, Steve hasn't hosted in 9 years, hasn't been on the show in almost 5. Will, after leaving, first time back on the show, and that just makes it. I mean, the Colin Farrell jokes fall a little flat, but you get where they're going with it. Like the rumors that Brittany was with Colin at this point. But yeah, other than that, like him living on a farm and all the jokes about we're not good farmers, all the animals are very sick. Like you see immediately what you missed from Will Ferrell being on the show this close to him, his exit from the show just about 8 or 9 months earlier. So yeah, I love this weekend update.
It is a huge void that he ends up like coming in, and you just see like how on another level he is compared to some of the other cast members around him. But then you see him here and he's really great. And the whole like, Will, I thought you were married. Jimmy, look who it is. It's Britney Spears.
Yeah.
It's just so good, like the way he delivers that line. Your thoughts on update, Jared?
Yeah, I like the correspondence more in this one than the actual update jokes, with Maya Rudolph singing all the weird Christina Aguilera pitches and Jimmy having to translate it. Steve Martin, now knowing that context that he hadn't been on the show in forever, just going there and, doing a cameo. And you want to tell a joke? No, I just want to do cameo things.
And it feels like that cameo makes this episode even more important in a way. I know it's just like a quick moment on Weekend Update, but just Steve having been at the show for so many years, so many times, not getting him for a long time. Like the fact that he came here during the walk-in episode, it almost felt like in a season where people were really unsure about the future of the show. Like, this is a huge bright spot. We're also going to get some really fun moments here with the musical performances, where we'll obviously have the Christopher Walken introduction, the Foo Fighters, and then Jim Carrey will appear in the Times Like These performance, which I believe is my understanding, and I think this gets talked about a little bit in some documentaries, is that this wasn't exactly planned, and Jim Carrey ends up going up on stage and rocking out with the Foo Fighters. Just a really cool moment, Bill.
Yeah, and one of my favorite bands, and maybe their best time on the show. I don't know. I mean, there's so many to pick from, but they play two incredible hits here with All My Life and Times Like These. And yeah, the Jim Carrey thing is very interesting to think about. And Dave Grohl even ends the song by saying, "Thanks, Jim." So it's blink and you miss it if you were watching it live. Like, that can't be Jim Carrey. But yeah, sure enough, as you went online after the show, but there was no SNN back then, so you had to go on blogs and message boards. But that was one of the things I remember being talked about quite a bit.
It's one of those things, Jared, of like, you're watching the show,
yeah,
and it's live, and anything can happen, and you don't get that on, things were more live, I guess, then than now, but you don't get that on many other shows where you never know what you're going to see until you actually get to see it.
Yeah, and I guess it's also blink and you miss it even in 2025, because I watched the whole episode and I remember, David Grohl saying, "Thanks, Jim," and I'm like, is he talking about his drummer? Well, who is he talking about? And like getting to the end of the episode and Walken thanking Jim Carrey, I'm like, wait, when was Jim Carrey in this episode? So I had to go back and I looked at the second song and saw Jim Carrey playing his leg like a guitar. Be like, oh, okay. So yeah, I'll admit I completely missed it on the first pass.
It's one of those things that, like, it's very easy to watch these episodes and skip the music because you may just personally not like the artist or whatever. I mean, it's hard not to like Foo Fighters, but in this case, if you don't know this is going to happen, it could be something that you miss, and it is a truly iconic musical moment from the history of the show. With Will Ferrell being back, they bring back the Lovas opposite Christopher Walken, who is, I think he's recurring a character that he had previously played in one of these sketches, where Dratch and Will Ferrell and Christopher Walken can constantly talk about their previous lovemaking experiences with Walken's new girlfriend, Maya Rudolph, being grossed out. But just great to get a Will Ferrell character back right after he leaves the show, Bill.
Yeah, and I'm glad they saved this for after Update so it wasn't spoiled, because you wouldn't have gotten that recognition from him on Update. I guilty pleasure for the Lovers. I enjoy most of these. I think there are better versions. I think the Drew Barrymore, the Winona Ryder ones are much better than this.
The hot tub ones.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, Walken plays off these guys so well. And Maya being the new girl, I think Anna was his girl in the last one. I have no problem with this, especially this late in the night. And if you got Will in the building, this seems like the logical place to go when you have Walken on as well.
I think if we were going live that night and we saw Will on Update and then he wasn't in anything after Update, we'd be like, damn it, like, you need to put something with Will in it. And it sincerely boosts this episode up even higher. Jared, do you love these sketches?
My thought when I hit this episode when I hit this sketch was the goal tonight to just give Christopher Walken as many bad accents as possible? Because he had a French accent in Hardball, Continental. I'm not sure what he was trying to go for. The Southern one in Colonel Angus, and whatever this one was in The Lovers. I could not figure out, like, almost all night what accents he was actually trying to do.
Well, it's just a Walken. That's what I'm saying. It's like different versions of a Walken, Jared, where I think that's my thesis on him as a host, where the writers absolutely love having him in the building because they know he's going to make his material even funnier based on the fact that the way he talks is so unique.
That's true. Yeah. And that he is just so unique. Like that, the Super Bowl commercial recently of all these people like talking Christopher Walken to Christopher Walken. He really does have that unique speech pattern. Yeah, I enjoyed the Lovers. I agree. The hot tub ones were definitely better overall, but I mean, it's good to get some Will Ferrell back in there because him and Dratch play off each other so well, and they're in their innuendo talk in this.
Speaking of back, I don't love the whole "ow, my back" thing at the end, but besides that, I mean, like the first time it was funny, but I do wish they had switched that up to something else that broke the mold of these sketches.
Would it be better if it ended with a button like Uber Eats, John? I know, in modern.
No, that would be the pits of this.
Yeah.
So this is really fun, and then we're gonna end on what is an absolute guilty pleasure of mine that I don't think I've ever gotten to talk about here on these shows, but Chris Kattan, who is a cast member that did not make the top 50 cast members of all time a couple of years ago, but I think was borderline well deserving of being in there. And he comes up with this sketch towards the end of his career that he's going to do all throughout season 28, and it is called the Rialto Grande. And he's like this showman type like Vegas show where he's gonna go and introduce acts who are gonna come on, and he's hilarious in this. The way that he laughs, his like old man take on this, and his drummer Mackie, played by Fred Armisen, is so great because he's like this old drummer, does not know when to do a rim shot. So we're gonna we always take it on these rides of like these really fun performers who have this like moment where their career or their lives are in shambles, and right as it hits like the lowest of low moment, Fred Armisen's gonna hit the drums, and it is just one of the best laughs that I get from this season seeing these sketches. Jared, did you enjoy your first look at the Rialto Grande?
Yeah, Fred Armisen, yeah, with what you just mentioned is definitely the highlight of the sketch. And full disclosure, I completely forgot Chris Kattan was still on SNL. This is my era when I was in high school. I completely forgot he was even still on there. I guess I associate him with like Night at the Roxbury and the stuff in the 90s. Other than Armisen in this, sorry, I just didn't laugh a whole lot. Yes, when Walken first comes out with his pants down, yes. This one just did not hit for me, honestly.
I don't know. There's something for me, Jared, about the Kattan, the way that he laughs at everything, where he's like, ha ha, like that whole thing that he does, like throughout. It is. Bill, please back me up here.
Yeah, John, there's nothing guilty about this. I think this is probably Kattan's best role. I'd put it up there with the Roxbury guys. He had kind of gotten into this box of very, very strange characters with Mango and Mr. Peepers. I think this really worked, and this is a real thing. Like I've never been to a show like this, but this is what's happening on the off-strip Vegas, musical. His laugh is great. I can't. My prostate. I got a membership to a gymnasium. Have you heard of these things? It's just this very hackneyed comedian thing that they have here. I think this is great, and Kattan plays off him so well here.
Maybe Bill, after the podcast ends, you can just go through and reenact the entire sketch, and maybe I'll laugh a little harder.
Yeah.
I'll also say that the cocktail waitresses that come out at the end, my gosh, they're so funny. I forget who was talking. It was some podcast where like this sketch came up, and maybe it was Tina was like talking, or Amy were talking about like how every time like the women would just like wait for the moment where they could walk across the street and do something so stupid, and like that always kills me. Like this is a great thing. So give it another shot, Jared. Okay. Overall,
I'll admit, there was one more funny thing on there. John, you do stand up, right?
I do not. No.
Oh, I thought you did for whatever reason.
This is the closest I have to my
what I always wondered with stand-ups is like when the waiters or waitresses are walking by them, like what? Because the trays are usually like at their arm level. Why don't they just grab a drink off and do that? Just like Walken and Kattan do in this one. So that I'll admit that made me laugh as well.
Yeah. That was very funny for sure. Jared, overall 41 here for Christopher Walken and Foo Fighters. Do you think that this deserved to make the list?
I do. I have to. The problem is I haven't seen all of the Christopher Walken episodes, so if I'm picking certain ones, I can't really compare it. I mean, this episode is so different comparing this to the JT and Gaga episode that it's really in its own category. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I agree with its listing.
Yeah, I definitely, it's different. It's a different era, but it is similar in terms of, like I said, where this takes place in SNL history. I think it has a thing of like the show still got it even while it's kind of mid. And Bill, How do you feel about this one overall here at 41?
I love this placement. I'll be concerned if we get into the 20s and the teens and like we haven't seen another walk-in. I don't think that's going to be the case, but because I think there are stronger walk-in episodes. But two iconic sketches. Sorry, John. Two unbelievable musical guests, incredible cameos from three all-time SNL hosts / cameo people. I love it. I love everything about this episode. So I've got nothing bad to say, and I think this is a great placement for this.
I agree. We will see where this lands on our list as we head towards the end of the show. Let's talk about our next episode here as we head towards the top 40 episodes in SNL history. And this is one from another 5-timer. This is a pretty iconic episode, I think. It will head further back in time, all the way back to 1998, and our Christmas episode with Alec Baldwin and music from Luciano Pavarotti and Vanessa Williams. Here we go. Let's talk about this one here, Bill Kenny. 40 on the list, the first Alec Baldwin appearance. It's a night full of epicos.
Yes, it is. And we know why this one's on the list, John, right? I mean, we know what got this here. But there's some really, really good stuff throughout this, including a monologue that's highly debated among SNL superfans. I think we get a lot of great moments here, including from Molly Shannon in another sketch, a morning latte, an ad that I epically love that's been lost to time. And so, yeah, let's get into it.
Jared, for you watching this one back, overall thoughts?
Oh man, have you guys gone through all the Baldwin episodes and ranked them or no?
I don't think we know. We have not done that as an exercise.
I mean, I guess we could because there's double digits,
17 of them.
Yeah, you could do a whole list.
If he gets to 50, I think we could do an Alec Baldwin countdown.
Yeah, I see why this one got on the list with one of the most notable sketches of all time, including some gems in here as well, and some good time capsule ones with the Clinton impeachment and all that. And I'm excited to discuss this one. So let's do it.
Okay, so for those of you at home, we have to start with one sketch here, which I think is a no doubt slam dunk iconic sketch. And that would be the delicious dish sketch from this episode. Even if you are the most casual SNL viewer, you've heard of sweaty balls. What most casual viewers don't know is that this sketch is a recurring sketch that had appeared many times prior to this and would end up, when Alec Baldwin comes on this one, you think it is typically like the NPR talk show. It's going to be very normal, but we get an incredible amount of double entendres where we're going to have Pete Schweddy talk about his balls, and it is just an absolute masterclass from Molly Shannon and Anna Gasteyer, who are having a lot of fun with Alec Baldwin in this one. And it is a sketch that will, go on to probably well define the era beyond Christmas specials for years to come, and is probably on most people's top sketches of all time, Bill. So that's definitely one reason why this episode makes the list here.
It's hard to think of another sketch in SNL history that took such a left turn. So this is the 9th time we get this. And it was all about Anna and Molly before this, good times and things like that. The double entendre after this becomes much more of a thing. I think, they kind of divert from that in the DeVito episode with the Y2K stuff, but we get sweaty wieners, we get dusty muffins. So it's something I wish they had just left this as a one-off, because I think there's diminishing returns in that aspect of it. But for this sketch itself, it is an all-time classic. You can hear it in the audience reactions as they realize what's happening. And it's still on Christmas specials. It's made it all the way to 2025. An epic moment here from these three.
And again, we're not in the age of social media where the show can realize how epic of a moment they just had. It's not like a Beavis and Butthead situation, or like a Domingo or the last couple of years where they get that fan reaction and they're like, okay, everybody's talking about this one, so we have to react and make this a thing. like they're going on Christmas break. It's 1998. Unless they're looking at SNL message boards, like I don't think they realize right away. But like over time, we're now headed to, I guess, like almost 30 years later. And this is a sketch that is still talked about among all the sketches in SNL history. This could be the most talked about, Jared. So how does it feel to revisit the delicious dish, the sweaty ball version?
Yeah, you cannot make a Christmas compilation without including this delicious dish sketch in here. And yeah, just so much wordplay on balls. The thing I like to bring up most this time of year are my balls. Yeah. So Alec Baldwin gives such a perfect delivery. The low keyness of Anna Gasteyer, and I'm looking at the chat. I agree with oversimplified production. Anna Gasteyer is very underrated. She needs to come back and host. But yes, Gasteyer and Molly Shannon are just the perfect complements to Alec Baldwin's Baker in this one. So yeah, this is just one of the most iconic sketches of all time, and I love it.
And Bill, you mentioned that you don't think there's like another sketch in SNL history that sort of takes this turn and goes on a different path. I think like maybe the closest thing is Wayne's World in a way, where it's sort of just two guys in the basement for a long time. And then eventually like Aerosmith will join, and then they'll become, with Madonna and music videos and stuff like that. So it sort of develops into another thing. But I think this is a very unique situation where we have a turn on a sketch that's going to change the whole viewpoint of these sketches. And I always love the game here for the Delicious Dish sketches, which is that we are at home watching this sketch visually, but you are supposed to be living in the world of the sketch, knowing that the people in the world of the sketch are actually only hearing what is happening and they're not seeing it. So in order to buy into the humor of the sketch, especially this version over any other, you have to buy into Saturday Night Live. Like that's the thing. That's what I always tell people who are like, I don't get SNL. I don't understand it. And I said, like, you can't, if you don't get it, it's because you don't world build in your mind. Like you don't envision what it's like to actually be these people in these sketches. And I think like this is the way that so many people have fallen in love with the show, is because this is a sketch that guides you on that journey to understanding what it's like to be in the world of a sketch. And I think that along with the fact of how funny it is why this sketch has become so epic. So naturally, it makes sense that one would appear sometime on this countdown. The question is, does the rest of the episode hold up as well? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's happening here in the world in December of 1998. And we are right in the midst of Bill Clinton getting impeached, which is, again, so many crazy things have been happening throughout this countdown as we revisit it. It's very trippy. But here, Bill Clinton, Daryl Hammond will be talking to the nation. Sorry for his recent impeachment, which will devolve into him eventually trying to seduce America as he cannot break old habits. Bill, let's place the listeners at a point in time. How do you feel about going back and revisiting the season 24 cold open from Daryl as Bill Clinton?
From a political standpoint, it makes me angry because this was the beginning of a lot of nonsense that we're still dealing with to this day. But as far as the impression, I mean, we're about 9 months in, and it really boosts SNL because we get to see what Daryl's able to do, Molly as Monica Lewinsky throughout the times. And this is right at the height of, he's impeached earlier this week, I believe. Eventually, we get to the point in February, which is an iconic moment in a cold open where he goes, "I am bulletproof," and walks off. One of my favorite moments in the history of the show, hands down. But, this turn of him being able to seduce anybody, playing James Taylor, Fire and Rain, it's very interesting to go this route when the president of the United States is in dire danger because of, the charges that were brought against him.
It's very interesting revisiting these because I know last week when we talked about another episode from this era, we were like, oh, there's this one like epic line from him. And I think a lot of these sketches do have those one lines. For me, it's the like, why don't you come over here, America, and sit in my lap? Like I always do remember that one. Jared, how is it to revisit this for you?
All right. I was in 4th grade at the time this episode came out, and I just remember my parents watching the coverage of this impeachment on the TV, because this is what was in the news cycle just all the freaking time. Like, I guess you had the OJ trial earlier, and then you had the Clinton impeachment in the late '90s. So it brought back memories of that. And Daryl Hammond does such a great Bill Clinton. He's really got that drawl on there, and just usually you would think a joke would get old the number of times he repeats sorry, but no, you just love it every single time he does it in this one. And even talking about the board game sorry, and yeah, I guess he does a good job expressing Clinton that he's sorry. I actually do remember the real speech, or I've seen the real speech from that Clinton gave post impeachment from this, and I think this mirrors it actually pretty well.
And I think the simple version for a lot of people who have not gone back and read about what was happening at the time is that he was getting impeached for perjuring himself, basically, and talking in reference to the Lewinsky scandal. And it's just a very different time. But, going back 27 years, it is so interesting to see. And one of the biggest mind fucks of this episode is this monologue where you are watching something that in real time probably meant nothing, but reviewing this now, it is bizarre to see how they nailed this. And it's like almost like I've never gotten to ask the question of like, did SNL do this on purpose? But here we go with Alec Baldwin hosting for his 8th time, and John Goodman, who had been playing Linda Tripp and like was cameoing in a ton of episodes in season 24, will show up as the ghost of SNL present, talking to Alec about the true meaning of hosting SNL. And we get to see this, thing of like Alec, questioning everything. And he's walking through and he sees that if he doesn't host, then Lauren's going to, fire Daryl Hammond. And then in comes Jimmy Fallon as the ghost of host future, who will in the future host the show in 2011. Now, keep this in mind. This is only 9 episodes into Jimmy Fallon's career as a cast member. He's a rookie here, headed towards his Christmas show, where he had been pretty popular. People were like, oh, okay, liking this new guy, but not to the level of like, okay, he's going to go on to be this pretty important cast member who's going to end up hosting in 2011. And they show even a future sequence of new cast members in a montage. Jimmy Fallon walking out. It's a pre-tape moment of him walking around out to home base. We see John Goodman is on the cast in the future. Don Pardo is no longer around. He's the Don Pardo 9000, and musical guest is REM. Bill, your thoughts on this monologue?
Lot to unpack here. Let's set aside the fact that they got the damn date wrong. The internet existed in 1998. They could have looked up what the Saturday in December of 2011 was going to be. They got it off by 5 days. We'll leave that part aside. This is crazy. This would be like if they did this in modern times this past December with like Emil or Ashley, and not knowing, as you said, like this is very early. And now it's very easy to say, well, he's hosting the Tonight Show and he went on to a prolific career. Nobody knew that at this point. Like 9 episodes in, you can't predict that for virtually anybody other than Eddie Murphy. So this is really an interesting way to go here. 3 times we get Daryl as Clinton in this episode. I mean, he's playing himself, playing Clinton, but that's an interesting kind of side note, little footnote to this as well. But yeah, it's a very ballsy claim to say that he's going to be hosting in 2011, and something that's remembered by superfans for sure.
It's just so wild. I know that Jimmy's like spoken on like everything SNL related. It's one of those questions that I when I interviewed him on the red carpet at the 50th, I was like, now that I watch this today, I'm like, I wish I asked him this, because I don't know if anybody's ever asked him. Like, if we ever got the opportunity to do that, that's one of the questions that has to be on the list of like, did you know when you hosted then that this was the thing? And then like, did you get booked purposely in December 2011 because of this? Like, it was just, it's a weird superfan thing, Jared. So how did it feel to rewatch this one?
Yeah, that would be a really random thing to remember, I guess, in 2011, if you happen to know about this 1998 episode. To specifically book them in December. But yeah, you're right. And if you had told me in this era, oh yeah, Jimmy Fallon one day is going to go host the Tonight Show, I'd be like, are you sure about that? I think Jay Leno's going to take it forever, man. It hits differently because we're again watching it in 2025. So I like what they did. I liked what they did with John Goodman. Bill, I had to think for a second. It's like, when did he appear as Clinton the third time? But yeah, you're right. He's backstage in between sketches dressed as Clinton. So that's the third time. So yeah, they didn't realize the magic they were making then when they did this monologue. So it pays off for the future generations.
The rest of the episode is interesting because I think there's some highs, I think there's some lows, and we'll talk through it. We're going to get a commercial next for the NBA on NBC, which is weird timing since the NBA is returning to NBC next season, talking about the lockout. So like a promo there, no cast members really featured. We're going to talk about Morning Latte next, which is a morning talk show hosted by Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry, who always great to get to see their chemistry together here. This to me, like, I guess I'll put this also in the guilty pleasure category of just seeing the two of them make fun of their Gelman, which is, played by Alec Baldwin here, talking about him divorcing his wife and loving Mary Jane, and always referencing how Cass Van Rye cannot have any children. So one of those sketches that I think, we'll always remember Sherry and Will for the cheerleaders, but I think this is another good one of them together. Jared, did you enjoy the Morning Latte sketch from this episode?
Yeah, John and Grizzly Adams is here. So it's a great sketch overall. Yeah, just so many random quips and different jokes and directions this sketch takes that it's a little bit, I find it was a little bit harder to follow at times. But yeah, and Alec just getting more and more and more annoyed throughout this sketch was fun. Not my favorite, but I think it had its moments.
Bill, what about you?
Yeah, it's not one of the better editions of Morning Latte, but I'll never turn down a Sherry Will collab. And it's funny that these morning talk show parodies don't really age. I mean, they still do this chippered nonsense today. Obviously, we've moved to different hosts and things like that. But I think that's why stuff like Regis and Kathy Lee or Regis and Kelly still work when you go back and watch them, because there's something about making fun of shows like that just really hits home. If you're not a morning person, as I am not, you always find these shows just completely irritating. So to kind of put it out there like this, I love it.
We talked about a Tina sketch last time with the walk-in episode with Colonel Angus, but we'll talk about another Tina sketch, this one from before she was a cast member on the show, where she writes this sketch for Alec Baldwin, who is supposed to be a 6-year-old girl in the hospital, and Molly walks around as a children's clown who's going to entertain him there. And there's like some sexual tension as they start making out, and on a gas tire, as the doctor is just appalled at how what is happening here, and the button on the sketch will end up being that she was actually a man this whole time. Bill, this is a sketch that I remember very, very well, and it is one because I loved it 90% of the way there, and I hated that it was revealed that she was actually a man the whole time. I think the fact that the disease made the 6-year-old girl look like a man, I know there's like a little bit of like, okay, well, like that's weird if that was actually happening, but I think that they used it to justify it. It's just like, it sort of broke the mold of what they were going for here, which is like, I would have rather them not known. And there was always the thing of like, we at home know that he's pretending instead of them telling us he was pretending.
Yeah, the wonderful crawl, the 90s version of the buttons we get today. The only thing I can think of is that they were concerned that they would get irate calls that, Alec is a 6-year-old girl. So somebody somewhere in Oklahoma is offended by that, I'm sure. But
but I don't want him to like actually be a 6-year-old girl. I just want the like idea that like we at home know that he's not a 6-year-old girl.
I completely agree, and that's what comedy should be.
Yeah.
Yes. But we talked about this a little bit last year when Alec came up in the host countdown. This is a very underrated sketch. I don't think outside of our community people remember this one very well. But this is the moment I was talking about with Molly, where she really brings it, and getting to see her work with Alec. I'm sure she was not opposed to getting to make out with Alec in this scenario. So I love this one.
Do you think it was the backlash to Canteen Boy the reason why they put the runner button or whatever you called it at the end?
That could very well be. I mean, because that was the same kind of, they had to go out and say that Adam was what, 32 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
it's
wonder if
possible.
that played into it possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I just like, if you're gonna go for it, then like go for it in a way. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I wonder if it was Ken Boy, because it's a little bit of a different era, and there's sort of like a different production. Like Lauren and Marcy and people were still there, but yeah, I don't know. That's a very interesting question, Jared, to think about with this one. We will get a TV Funhouse here, which is about the Harlem Globetrotters First Christmas. I know Smigel at the time would do like a lot of like Christmas themed, TV fun houses that were more unique and different and not like the recurring stuff at Christmas. We're also going to get a commercial, which is 10, 1776, 528, 1830, 242, 3, 316, 68, 22, which is a commercial for sort of like a very long distance phone number, and they use a mnemonic device to try and remember the number, which is a lot of things that have happened in American history. I almost remember this commercial more for being extremely unique, Bill.
This is the commercial that I love, that is completely lost to time with cell phones and long distance not really being a problem anymore. But these 1010 220, which is what this is parroting, was huge at this time. Those commercials were on constantly, starring our very own Jan Hooks. If you go on YouTube,
I did not know that.
You can see her. Jan Hooks does one with Emmett Smith, and she does one with Mike Piazza. So these were everywhere at the time. This was a way to save whatever it was, 4 cents a minute. And if you wanted to call your girlfriend from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, this was the way to do it. And I love that.
Yeah, that gives good context for this one. Jared, your thoughts?
Yeah, at first I was trying to figure out if it was like for collect calling, but looking more into it, yeah, what you said, I vaguely remember stuff like 1010 321 commercials growing up, because I think they were on TV a lot. Now, mind you, again, 4th grade, wasn't really making long distance calls at that time, but it did stir like a glimmer in my mind. And then, yeah, them referring to like all these tragic events to help you remember the number was also very, very SNL and very entertaining.
It's a fun T-Sean Shannon piece from the time, this commercial. We're going to get music from Luciano Pavarotti and Vanessa Williams. And this is really fun, really great for Christmas. It's something that I'll always remember of like a unique musical guest. And he's going to perform also like in between commercials a little bit too. So that's very cool. And I think this is also fun in the context of most of you have just seen the Questlove music documentary. And if you've seen Quest talk about making the documentary, he basically says that they produced the thing and then they went to all of the musical performers and they asked them for permission to put their music in the doc. And the only one that he wanted in there that he couldn't get was Pavarotti. He just was like, oh, I wasn't going to fly over there and, pay the family a bunch of money for this. Like, it's not something that he was going to be able to do. But, it is one of those things that it's not included in the doc, but this is some pretty, I'd say, iconic music, Bill.
Yeah, this is very rare for SNL any time in the history of the show to get an opera singer of this caliber. One of the 3 tenors, not the other one, John, but
Seinfeld quote. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
Pavarotti, Domingo, and the other guy. Yeah.
And the other guy. And to have Vanessa Williams in there as well. Fantastic singer. This is very interesting. And I wish it was something that we could see every year, kind of like we do with Winter Wonderland with Garrett.
Yeah, it was one of those things that was reminiscent of what you would see in the original era of the show. Jared, did you enjoy getting to revisit this music?
I did, yeah, because they had a big full orchestra with this one too, and yeah, I thought Pavarotti was kind of an odd choice for an episode, but this worked really well with him and Vanessa Williams. It's very Christmassy. It's a Christmas time episode. I loved it.
We're going to see Vanessa Williams alongside Tim Meadows on Weekend Update, where he will perform as Kwanzaa Timmy, talking about singing about Kwanzaa. This is a Colin Quinn Weekend Update. So always fun for Tim Meadows, who's nearing the end of his career at the show, headed towards at least that back half towards the end. And I think that this is one that I would say is pretty memorable as well, Bill, a performance from him on Update.
Yeah, and having Vanessa and the underrated Janice Pendarvis, who sang backup for hundreds of artists like Sting and Blondie. Yeah, this is a great character for him, explaining Kwanzaa to all us white folks. This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
It's pretty cool, Jared, because in this episode we get Christmas material, we get Kwanzaa material, and we get Hanukkah material. So they're really covering their bases here.
Yeah, you got the full gamut, even in 1998. And again, yeah, this weekend update was a great time capsule again, talking about Mark McGuire and the Sammy Sosa home run thing, and also just the era of the time too, because they made fun of Lawrence Taylor, I think, for his drug use, and like thinking like 1998 and then to today, like I can't imagine Weekend Update like making fun of a celebrity for their drug use at this point. So it's another view of that era. But yeah, Tim Meadows and the Kwanzettes teaching about Kwanzaa. I feel like this is also one that should be in the Christmas or December compilations going forward. I think it's a unique enough sketch and very entertaining that yeah, definitely I loved it.
Certainly forgotten to time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then we will get the delicious dish, which will be the post update sketch. So a lot of people do think it was a top of show sketch, but it was right after Weekend Update. And then we'll have an impeachment hearing sketch, so a topical one there, where we will see again Bill Clinton played by Daryl Hammond. Most notably, we will have Tim Meadows make an appearance as O.J. Simpson here, and we are sort of just past all the O.J. stuff. Norm, it gets fired on Weekend Update the season before, but here, very funny back and forth where we will have O.J. Simpson testifying for Bill Clinton, and we'll get the thank you juice sign. So good stuff here from Tim Meadows as O.J. Simpson once again. Bill.
Yes, we drag OJ out one more time. I love the concept of all of these people, from Alan Dershowitz to OJ Simpson, all can't stand what Clinton's done, but come on, he shouldn't be impeached, which was pretty much the feeling of most people in the country at the time. And Daryl is Clinton behind all these people. Yes, getting excited every time somebody said something halfway nice about him. It's strange to see a political sketch this late in the episode, but I do like this.
Right after that, we'll get a Hanukkah hymns sketch, which is sort of a commercial for bad Hanukkah music. Nothing too notable there. Will Ferrell really kills me in this one. And of course, he always kills me in the Bill Brasky sketch, which will end this episode, where we're going to get the final Brasky before we have that sort of pretty like epic Brasky reunion in the early 2010s. But here, because John Goodman and Alec Baldwin, who are both in the building, and they're both most notable for being in these Brasky sketches with Keckner, and Tim Meadows, who doesn't appear in this one, weirdly. I guess he was getting his OJ makeup off. But yeah, some good Brasky stuff here. So always great to see the legendary Bill Brasky, Jared.
Yeah. Sorry, can I go back to the impeachment hearing for one
Sure,
second?
yeah,
It was
of course,
just
yeah, go ahead,
such an epic, just you guys mentioned, we all forget it was about perjury and thinking about, this was the moral decay of America right here. This is the worst thing that's ever happened in American history. And Tim, OJ's line, I had to explain to my daughters on how the president is a very bad, bad man, was probably the best line of that speech ever. All right. The Hanukkah one. A lot of Hanukkah songs really do sound the same. And I feel like that's how this sketch was making fun of that. And then, Bill Brasky, I enjoyed the drunk dudes at the bar talking like, oh, how amazing Bill Brasky is. It actually reminded me a bit of like Chuck Norris jokes almost, in terms of conflating what he can do. Like, for example, like Bill Brasky, he framed Roger Rabbit was one of my favorite ones. And the confessions of Baldwin, Goodman, and Farrell drunkenly saying something that they probably shouldn't have. So I've seen this one, and I've seen the Paul Rudd one. I need to go back and see the original at some point to compare all of them. But this is just a very fun end of the night sketch that that was a lot of fun.
Those first few are unbelievable, especially in that season 21 with Keckner. He's always great alongside Will in these. But Bill, it's always those non sequiturs that Jared was talking about that get me so hard. I think it was Alec who was like, "I masturbate to the Teletubbies."
That's
Yep.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
yep. That's what it. Yeah, if I was gonna pick 10 sketches to just watch, for the fun of it, Brasky will always be on the rotation. Love all of these. I love that they've always, up until the 2013 one, they always had either Baldwin or Goodman. So to get both of them in this was really great. Yeah, I love that Chuck Norris comparison. That's a great point. Something about these just always hit for me. They just, the way they did it. The non sequiturs were great. The lines were great. Hosted the Grammys and gave all the awards to Corey Hart. Nobody knows who Corey
Yeah,
Hart is
that's
now,
a good
but
one.
that's funny, ranked 18th on the AP college football poll. It's just so many great lines in these. I hate that this is the last one that we really get in this era, but love them.
In a way, there's like a bit of crossover DNA between Herb Welch and Bill Brasky guys, like who, like also because you hit on a guest iron here, being like, you guys smell awful, and they always like are just like crazy to women. And I think that there's like something there that in comedy about these men who are just like devolving into the worst possible versions of themselves, and that is always really great for me. So, this is the interesting question with this one, which I think this is the fundamental question of this episode. And then I'll talk about after the next one where this lands on both of our countdowns. But Delicious Dish, obviously, absolutely iconic. Does the rest of the episode live up to the iconic status of the rest? And is that, enough to get it as high on this countdown? So, Jared, now that we've gone through it, well deserving at 40, or how do you feel?
Yeah, that's the question, because you're right. Delicious Dish takes this episode and really raises it up, probably like how Van Down by the River and More Cowbell will probably raise whatever. I don't know the rest of the list, by the way. Whatever the those episodes, they will probably really raise those episodes. Overall, I think it's a very fun episode, but I feel like I would need to see more of the list. Personally, I would probably have ranked the the Timberlake and Gaga episode higher than this one, but that's the fun part about SNL. It's all about personal preference. I think it deserves to be on the list, but I guess I need to see the rest of the list before I can make a true judgment there.
Yeah, Bill, I would say this one I have a couple question marks about. I think that there's conversations into the top 50 episodes of all time. Is it actually a top 50 episode of all time to you?
Probably not, because while Morning Latte is great, it's not even the best version of that. You get a couple of forgotten commercials in NBA and NBC in the 10-10 da 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 da. You have a great musical guest, but that's really only bonus points to me. So you're basically being carried on Delicious Dish, Bill Brasky, and a monologue that in hindsight has stood the test of time. So yeah, I don't know that this would be, especially with other Baldwin episodes that we could definitely talk more about. I don't know that this would be that high for me.
Okay, fair enough. So Alec Baldwin, season 24, ends up at 40 on the list. We're officially in the 30s, first milestone to talk about here as we go through our countdown this summer. So we will end the night with talking about number 39, which I will say, we'll talk about that this is one of the greatest episodes of all time. I say, no doubt, no brainer. This is one of the most important episodes of all time. So here we go. We will head to a premiere. We will go back in time to 1986, October 11th, season 12, episode 1, hosted by Sigourney Weaver. No official musical guest here, though we will have Buster Poindexter, as we will talk about the start of a new era of Saturday Night Live, an episode that will go on to define a generation at the show. Bill Kenny, I know this episode means a lot to you. Let's talk about it here at number 39.
Yeah, this is where it all began for me. This is really exciting to be able to talk about this episode. We can debate it being on the greatest episodes of all time, and we will. But this is such an epic. You say important, John. You look at other episodes that kind of rebooted the show, that kind of gave, and this is above all of those too. I mean, season 21 is a very epic beginning with Will and Sherry, but not on this level. If you want to look at season 7 with Ebersol, same thing. Like, there's some good nuggets there. The show was in dire straits, no pun intended for the 1986 group. And this was a really big moment. When we talked about Shatner last week, I didn't realize how dire it was at the time. So I'm coming into this and seeing all these characters, all these performers, and loving every one of them. In hindsight, being able to go back and watch this episode, there's so many great moments. Everybody gets a turn out of the new repertory company. I love this episode. Love everything about it.
And I think when we're talking about this episode, we need to be very clinical here because, if we're talking about best episodes of all time, there is a distinction to me between best and greatest, because I think greatest includes the iconic status of the episode, the importance to the series. I think you have to factor those things in here when you are counting down your greatest episodes. And there's no doubt that this episode has all of that. And there are a lot of moments here that will be talked about for generations. So Jared, how did it feel for you to revisit this one here at 39?
Yeah, so from the burning phoenix that was the finale of the previous season, where Lauren set the SNL dressing room on fire, and you didn't know who was going to make it to the next season, minus John Lovitz, who he pulled out. That phoenix burned down to the ashes, and from the ashes rose this amazing golden era of Saturday Night Live, with some of the most iconic and best players of all time. And this has multiple sketches that went on to be recurring and some of the best characters of all time. So I will talk about where it falls on the list, but I love this episode.
So I think that there's so many important moments here that it is a little bit more difficult to jump around with this one. Like, you almost have to build up to take the viewers through the episode to be able to understand what's happening here. So, please forgive us for not jumping into things that I think are absolutely epic, because I think it is very important for us to go through this step by step here. So we'll start with the first iconic moment, which I think is this cold open. It's one that is very fascinating, where Madonna, who had previously hosted in season 11, that premiere, comes out and says that it was all a dream, and that reads the letter, and there's this like moment of like almost like, Bill, I think people forget how awkward the opening to this cold open is, where she's waiting for applause that don't come until she eggs on the audience, and then eventually says it was all a dream, and eventually says, well, live from New York, it's Saturday night. And it is one of those things that, like, we talk about the fire, as Jared said at the end of 11, but a lot of people don't talk about how we're going to wash away what happened the previous year by Madonna coming on. And I think for SNL fans, this is a really important moment.
Very important moment, and the play on something that was huge in the pop culture lexicon at this point. I wasn't a Dallas fan, but everybody knew about Bobby Ewing coming out of the shower that previous spring. And just 2 weeks before this episode airs is where the whole "it was all a dream." So basically, this Patrick Duffy wanted to come back to Dallas, had been killed off in 1985, and this was the only way they could figure out how to do it. So they said the entire season of Dallas in 85, 86 was a dream, which pissed a lot of people off, pissed a lot of cast members off. So they went right into this. This is very fresh in everybody's mind when she says this. Still a very funny line if you don't know any of that. And yeah, Madonna is just being Madonna. This, she's at the height of her fame with number one hit after number one hit. So for her to be sitting there, it is very, very awkward when she's waiting for it's like that Jeb Bush, please clap moment that we get a couple decades later. But yeah, short, sweet, to the point, and we don't meet any of the cast at this point, and we don't for a couple more segments either.
It's going to be, it's very interesting the way that they actually, and if you watch a rerun of this episode, a lot of the sketches are reordered here, but just in the actual live airing of the episode, it's really fascinating the way they strategically planned all of this out. But you're so right. I mean, obviously a parody here, and it's just fascinating, Jared, to see SNL acknowledge how bad it was in the hopes of like, this will be the turning point. And thankfully it was.
Yeah. I guess I look at season 11 a little rosier. It definitely was. It wasn't as bad as people thought it was, but it was still pretty bad. I feel bad for Cusack, Quaid, and all them and Robert Downey Jr. that this makes fun of. But yeah, this was a good way to kick off the season, and SNL being very meta about itself. But yeah, Madonna was the Taylor Swift of that time, or Taylor Swift is the Madonna of our time now. So yeah, she was definitely way up there in terms of pop stars and all that, and definitely the perfect person to read this to begin the season, since she hosted the first episode. Yeah, as you mentioned, the previous season.
And there's
I'll
a
stop
lot of
talking now.
Sure, and there's a lot of different look and feel to this show too, where you're going to see a new opening montage. It's like exciting. You get to see there's new cast members here. I mean, a lot of people, like, they weren't, coming to the SNL and talking about the new cast members that were hired. Like, you're watching the TV and you're seeing these new people, and you're like, okay, I'm interested to see, like, what has SNL got? The home base is different. Sigourney Weaver is going to come out and talk about being in Aliens that summer and how much of a success it was. She'll bring out Christopher Durang, which is like a sort of this weird connection there. And then they're going to head to, they're going to want to do some opera, and they say the Lauren doesn't want them to really do it and then director Paul Miller is going to cut to a commercial for General Dynamics that features no cast members. So like the whole thing is a very weird start to this episode that most people don't remember because of the things that come after it. But I would say like a little bit of a bizarre start to the season here, Bill.
Yes. If this happened today, all summer long, we would be talking about it as the dribs and drabs came to, and there were magazine articles. TV Guide covered, some of the people. I can remember Dana Carvey article in one of the magazines at the time, but it wasn't really known. They would just be blasting us nonstop with, and rightfully so. And again, to go 15 minutes into a brand new season of an unsure future with SNL without any of the new people that you're going to be promoting is crazy. But we do remedy that pretty quickly after the General Dynamics ad.
Yeah. I know we talked earlier about people not getting SNL, and after seeing the General Dynamics commercial, I really didn't get it.
I think most people didn't get it. Like, I think it's one of those things. It almost felt like I think the monologue in the General Dynamics commercial are supposed to be like one joke, in a way. Like maybe I have to ask somebody, one of the writers of the show at the time, but I almost think that it was like a joke that we're going to go to a commercial to cut them off. But it's not like an SNL commercial because you don't really know who the cast is yet. So I almost felt like they had to go to like something that was just like so bland and normal.
Fair enough.
And you do have to wonder if, so much of 11 was terrible, but you do wonder if maybe this ad was in the can already. And it was just one of those things that
That's a good point.
Wanted to use. Film was expensive back then, kids. So, maybe they were like, no cast. We don't have to talk about Randy Quaid or anybody like that. It's very bland, but it is weird. And it's something that SNL did at this time a lot with ads that didn't have any cast in them at all.
And I wonder if you're watching this episode live for the first time, you're like, which new cast member was that in General Dynamics? And then really strategically, what's really interesting here is that they're going to go to a sketch that is featuring the most prolific character of season 11, which is John Lovitz's liar character, Tommy Flanagan. Yeah. And in that sketch are the host and Nora Dunn and John Lovitz. So it's a sketch that could easily have taken place in season 11. And for continuity purposes, I wonder if they put this sketch at the top of the show, because Tommy Flanagan, I always find Lovitz hilarious, but it's one of those things that's like, they did this purposely, probably so people felt like some sort of familiarity to the show. But it doesn't stack up to the epic moments we're going to get in front of it. So Bill, like, how do you feel about it, knowing the way they put this together?
It makes the most sense because this was really one of the few salvageable parts of season 11 with the only cast. Well, I mean, Nora and Dennis too, obviously, are very important to season 11 coming into season 12. But yeah, this is the only character that I think people would have still been quoting over that summer. So you want to bring people in. Now, again, how do you get this far into the show? You haven't had anybody. Like, you almost feel like this would have been a cold open if this episode was done today. where you would have Flanagan out there. And not to take anything away from the Madonna cold open, but like, okay, we're back, we're better, but we still got the guy that you liked last year.
Yeah, it is just weird in retrospect because everything ended up being really like successful. But I'd almost felt, Jared, that this was their safety net of like, let's just put out the thing that we know works first, and then we'll try a bunch of things after.
Yeah, that's the ticket. Definitely. They rode Tommy Flanagan in that season 11, and I just find him hilarious. I can't get enough Tommy Flanagan. So this is great. Sigourney also being kind of naive, but also being a liar was also a very good good addition to this. So yeah, I guess it makes sense to have the two of the survivors from the locker room or from the dressing room fired to kick off the show. But I mean, again, we're talking Burning Phoenix, Ashes, like we're talking really low expectations here. So I don't know if that, for all they knew, they could have gotten canceled after however many episodes they were signed for. So I know expectations were kind of low. So they probably wanted to use a known entity to maybe boost it just slightly up there.
So this will be followed by a game show sketch that introduces the audience to 3 new cast members in Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, and Jan Hooks. Probably 3 of the top 15 to 10 to 5 on some people's list, greatest cast members of all time, where we will get to meet them. We will see Phil Hartman playing a game show host, which he's always really good at, just like, getting introduced to him as the guy who's going to just anchor a sketch. He will go on to become the greatest to ever do it, probably. We will meet Jan Hooks' Marge Keister character that will end up being put into a bunch of other sketches following this, as well as Dana Carvey's character, who is playing a psychic here. And the game of the sketch, he's playing Lane Maxwell. And the game of the sketch really is that he knows what's happening before it happens. And the writing on this is really fun, as you get to see the answers before the questions, ending the sketch eventually with a giant boulder that's going to fall on Jan Hooks' Marge Keister, which has been predicted, and he cannot figure out why he sees the boulder and it hasn't hit her yet. And it is right away, you see this and you are like, okay, we have something here, Bill. We finally have cast members who have the connection, the maturity to be able to pull off really great comedy. SNL is back, baby.
It's back, baby. I mean, even coming out of the Flanagan, one of the weaker Flanagans. So even if you're watching this in real time and you're like, well, I like that character, but I think he's done it better. And to go into this one next, and you see, I mean, there's moments here that will carry all 3 of these cast members through their careers. I think we've got the prototype to Garth with Dana, the facial expressions he's making, the glasses, Jan delivering just beautiful lines when Phil calls her out for not doing well, and she says, I'm trying. I don't think it's very fair. He's a psychic. And you could just hear the audience just explode when she says that line. And it's just so Jan. And Phil, as you said, the game show master of all game show masters, so great here, playing a character that he does so many times and laid the groundwork for so many that came after him. Beautiful. Top 10 out of 10.
Jared, how did this play for you?
Yeah, this was hilarious with Dana knowing the future, and just the beginning of the amazingness that is Phil Hartman. And I guess the big thing I was wondering at the end of this was like that because Dana keeps saying meteor, but clearly it's not the answer to the questions. And I'm wondering what that meteor prop was made out of, because that thing definitely clocks Jan Hooks in the head when that falls in and knocks her out of the sketch, and the psychic wins and will win 750-0 the following week. And it's great. It's a great introduction to 3 amazing cast members.
It becomes an incredible visual, and it is just so fascinating to see these 3 just like already so great. Like, you think about all of the cast members who have joined the show in its 50-year history, and I don't think that there's been any cast members who have had it so strong in their first episode. I mean, this episode ultimately, I think, is Dana Carvey's episode. It's one of the greatest introductions to a cast member ever. But just, like Phil Hartman will have a great second episode. He already has some moments in here. Jen Hooks shows how good she is with some of her line deliveries. Like, these are seasoned performers ready to go. And then we'll get a commercial for The Amazing Alexander, which is John Lovett's hypnotist guy who basically convinces everyone that his show is better than Cats, as they will say to the audience. So that's a fun commercial there. This will be followed by a sketch called Heft Tea Bags, which is basically Jan Hooks as Princess Diana. Now, this is a sketch that is cut from most reruns of this episode, so you may be looking for this one online. This one's a tough one to find. It ends up getting replaced, and this one from like a film that's not in the live version of the episode. But I do want to talk about the following sketch, which is Church Chat, obviously one of the most iconic characters in the history of the show, where we see Dana Carvey bring his church lady for the first time to Saturday Night Live. And Bill Kenny, how did this play for you?
Well, isn't that special? Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Like, you rarely get an iconic sketch series that hits right from the beginning. And this does. I mean, they will get better. They will focus more in on all the scandals that were going on with this televangelist and things like that. And I think that was a great kind of turn. We're getting regular guests as if it's like a Johnny Carson episode or something like that, where it's Christopher Durang, until we get to Zool, which is just great for her to be able to reprise this role from Ghostbusters. And Dana's fully formed here. I mean, we're not getting the echo of Satan. We're not getting, but those are technical things. That's not, this character is what she is immediately. And this was the thing that was quoted on that following Monday for sure at every schoolyard.
Yeah, we do get an "isn't that special" here. It's not as like pronounced in the way that it would be for sketches to come, but all the basic bones are here of an iconic character. And it is so crazy to see again. This is to me is like one of the most important characters in the history of the show, and we're not even at the point yet where I think that Dana is going to completely take over this episode. But it is just very, very cool to see the premiere of Church Chat, Jared.
Yeah, you're right. The first isn't that special? I don't want to call it a throwaway, because it gets a laugh, but it gets nowhere near what it gets in future sketches. So if you had just seen just this one, you wouldn't know it'd become a truly iconic catchphrase of the show. And I echo what Bill said earlier, the Sigourney Weaver reprising her Ghostbusters role and being all possessed, and like the weird camera shaking at the end of it with Church Lady standing on her desk trying to do an exorcism I enjoyed it overall. Again, you're right. Not the best Church Chat, but a good setup for things to come.
Buster Poindexter will perform, and he will perform a lot in season 12. And this is so bizarre that he is not the official musical guest of this episode. I think it is one of the rare episodes in SNL history. I think Rob Reiner has an episode where there's no musical guest. There might be one more in season
Walter Matthau.
That's the one where Garrett Morris performs, I think.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just a unique thing here. So lots of Buster Poindexter. We're going to go to Weekend Update. Dennis Miller, still the Weekend Update anchor. He'll have on a couple of correspondents. So we will see Victoria Jackson come on here, where we get to sort of meet Victoria as one of the new cast members. And she is supposed to come out and give a serious commentary, but instead she's showing a film, which is a film of her daughter. She'll do this a few times coming on to Weekend Update at the time. We're also going to get A. Whitney Brown on here to talk about the big picture and doing his political commentary on Update. Jared, anything from Update here?
I enjoyed Victoria Jackson's kind of airy blondness getting its introduction here in this episode. Overall, very good. We get the beginning of the Dennis Mullets, and he keeps quoting all these different songs from that era. Like I think he quotes Janet Jackson's "Nasty" in the beginning, which it's just also a very fun time capsule to that. So that was and A. Whitney Brown's speech as well, talking about Reagan and the Soviet Union and all that. It's a very good time capsule, I find.
Bill, I feel like they had to have Whitney on this update as another continuation from season 11, where there is some continuity there.
Yeah, and the politicalness of it all is great, and A. Whitney always brings it. Um, I learned a lot of politics from SNL, but specifically from A. Whitney Brown. So always love that. And don't forget, we do get Dennis's character introduction here.
Right, Coco.
Coco at a picnic.
He'll end up playing this character in the future. A couple of them. Very, very weird stuff from the great Dennis Miller. All right, so what's really cool about this episode, I always found, is that they really found a way to include everybody. I mean, we're talking about a small cast here. We have, I guess, like, I don't know, 9-10 people in the cast. Like, it's not that many, but they found a way to like not make anyone feel left out or not have a big moment in the way that we were seeing like with the original era where or even in the Ebersol era, there would be like some cast members who just got no roles. Here now, Kevin Nealon, the other featured player, gets a starring sketch here where he's going to debut his Mr. Subliminal character, and he's going to be in that with Victoria Jackson and John Lovitz. And so fun that this is also taking place in an episode where we're meeting these three legendary cast members. We also get a great bit from Kevin as he is able to express his type of humor here, Jared. So this was awesome.
Yeah, I actually just saw Kevin Nealon do stand-up a couple months ago, and he'll do some Mr. Subliminal if prompted. But yeah, this character just, oh man, I just laugh all the time with just, this is hands down one of my favorites, to say the least.
Bill, you like this one, Hot Sex?
Yeah, Mets tickets. Maybe I'll wear something. I don't know. Yeah, this is great. We talked about Kevin last week with the Shatner episode, and this featured player nonsense, because I mean he came in late, so that's part of it. But he's right there with the rest of the cast immediately. And as you said, like everybody's kind of getting their turn in the box, and it's really, really gratifying to see. We're getting to know all of these people all in one night, and that's a great way when you're completely overhauling a show like this. One of his best characters. I like him on Update when he does this as well, but this is a great start for Kevin.
We also get some pop culture next, where they'll do an Aliens parody where they kill E.T. by accident. Did that one work for you, Bill?
Yeah, but only because I remember those movies. I can't imagine that this is something that really hits for somebody who hasn't seen these. I mean, Dana's over-the-top performance. Lovitz is doing a spot on of that character. But, this is very character-driven as far as having seen these movies, if you know what's going on. Now, obviously, the reveal of E.T. is very funny. If you know anything about the Alien series and how scary those things were. To have this cute little alien come out that they shoot to death was really funny. Okay. But yeah, a little dated.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, they also make fun of Sigourney Weaver and I guess how she takes her clothes off for a lot of roles as well. Yeah, the E.T. thing was, I thought it was a funny crossover overall, but I mean, I liked it, but not my favorite. I think Dana's man, oh, we're all gonna die, man. We're creating cheese, man. Was probably my favorite character in this sketch.
I think that in the original era of the show, they would do a lot of really great movie and TV show parodies. And I think the second golden era isn't as well known for those. I think that they really developed their own worlds. But it is, good to see them try stuff here. Phil Hartman will also have a commercial where he'll talk about getting arrested and how people in New York will get 10 weeks in jail. Bill, was this like something related to the time? Is there any things that are going on there?
Yeah, I think the crime crackdown in Manhattan at the time in New York City was very prevalent in the news. So I think that, these lesser sentences for convicted criminals was a major point of contention, but again, lost to time.
Yeah, it is always interesting. I mean, Phil Hartman in commercials, that will obviously become a staple of this era as well. Sigourney Weaver is going to perform "Baby It's Cold Outside" alongside Buster Poindexter, and then we will head to the sketch that I also think is an absolute reason why this one is on here and truly an iconic moment, which is the Derek Stevens "Lady I Know," or as most people know it, "Choppin' Broccoli," where we will get the music producers played by Phil Hartman and Sigourney Weaver as they're welcoming in Derek Stevens to premiere some new music. And they're very excited to present the music to the rest of the record label. And he doesn't really know what he's going to do. And he says that he doesn't have a song ready, and they start to panic. And then he says, actually, I have something that I think will be good for you. And he basically makes up a song on the spot that ends up being so catchy and so good that they fall in love with it, and he wins them over. And that is playing "Choppin' Broccoli." And Dana not only wins over the hearts of Phil Hartman and Sigourney Weaver, but all of America here, as he becomes the favorite cast member for everyone on Saturday Night Live. This is one of the greatest moments in the history of the show that solidifies one of the greatest premieres in the history of the show for a cast member, Bill. So do you remember this moment?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this made Dana my favorite right from the start. As we've said before, like Phil takes a little more time to get going. He's playing a lot of secondary roles, but he's, still fantastic, of course. But Dana really just takes the reins here. And yeah, the look on Phil's face as he starts singing the song, he's really digging the groove. They brought Derek back a couple times. Very, very unadvisable that they did that. But this first one is an all-time classic.
Jared, how did it play for you?
Yeah, his accent, I was trying to figure out, I was like, is he trying to be Billy Idol? Or I wasn't sure which British superstar he was trying to imitate in this one. I know he used it in his audition, so he had this before coming in. Like, thinking about 2025, like if this one had let's say this debuted last season, there would be TikToks of him playing Choppin' Broccoli. Thinking about this in like October 1986, like other than maybe like having my classmates sing, like just joking around singing Choppin' Broccoli, like there's no way to know. How would you know like this had gone viral, which wasn't really a thing even back then in 1986. So that was just more of the thing I was thinking about with that. And also how Dana, I think he went on the Tonight Show and does this with like a full orchestra, which is also very, very entertaining in itself. But yeah, I doubt when he performed this, he thought it would ever get to the level that it did.
I don't think anybody did, but Bill, I would assume like a ton of newspapers, like people are writing about how great Dana's performance was.
And there was that. I mean, the analog test for someone my age at that time would be, were you talking about it in school on Monday? So, that was the thing. And I don't know how that got to SNL, how they found out what was really working. But the other thing, I mean, I've talked about this on a couple other podcasts, like Dr. Demento was a staple on Sunday nights. And he would play clips of stand-up comedians, and he would play clips from SNL. That's how I got introduced to SNL, hearing stuff about Billy Crystal and Eddie Murphy and things like that. So stuff like that would show up on the Sunday night after an SNL. And people, I mean, Dr. Demento's retiring now. He was on the air for like 50 years. That was a place you go to kind of get a feel for what was really hitting around comedy and on SNL.
It is just a great moment. I mean, Phil Hartman also, I know you said takes a while to get going. I think he has a really great second episode with that old Hollywood sketch with John Lovitz. But in this episode, has some really just solid moments that are totally underrated in the game show host, in the commercial, but also in this sketch, because his reaction, the facial expressions he's making as Derek Stevens is playing Choppin' Broccoli, and he's just pondering about how good it is and thinking about where the places that it could go, is the stuff of legend. So I really think that this is truly, there are so many good moments and so many fascinating moments in this one that it has no doubt place on this list. This show will, conclude with some performances from Buster Poindexter. Also, Christopher Durang will eventually perform with Sigourney Weaver as they continue that bit about the opera, and there's a text crawl there. So it's a little bit of a weird ending to the show. It's one of those that's like there's almost 2 episodes happening here in the premiere of season 12, like the whole bit with Sigourney Weaver and everything there, and some random commercials. And then there's the ones that are like, now we're going to introduce you to all of the new players of Saturday Night Live. And because of the status of this era, this one becomes like one of the most important episodes in the history of the show. So let's do some overall thoughts here on number 39 on our list, Sigourney Weaver. Jared, let's go to you.
I'll admit I didn't watch this episode when it premiered. I was only 5 days old at the time, so I was probably sleeping and missed it. But going back to this was a lot of fun, and to use the metaphor, this episode had the seeds of a lot of greatness of SNL that grew into the giant oak tree that it is today, which is, personally, I think the episode should be higher on the list. But again, I'm curious to see the whole list and we'll compare it. But I think it should be higher than 39.
I would agree with you, Jared. I just think that there's too many great moments here for this to be at 39. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, trying to take my personal bias out of it and just look at it straight from what it is. And if you do, it still holds up. I mean, if you think about the original era and how, vaunted that is, how many episodes did that take for them to get going? 5, 6 episodes. This is right out of the gate in a very contentious time in SNL history, and you get banger after banger after banger. So are you taking points off for Buster Poindexter? No, not really. I mean, it is what it is. Everything else really works here. I think, again, having everybody get a solid moment. It's not just a walk on. Everybody gets to do a character or a version of themselves that's heightened. So we get to see this entire cast that's going to become so well loved right out of the gates, killing it. Yeah, this is high up for me too.
I like Buster Poindexter. Personally, I like his performances. I really liked his one in the William Shatner episode. And the couple that he has in here, I thought it was kind of weird. They had Baby It's Cold Outside in an episode that was in October, but maybe it wasn't fully associated as a Christmas song yet. I don't know. I guess it's still snow. It's October. It's snowy. So maybe it worked that way, but I'm not sure. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
The thing with Buster that just, I feel like it took away from getting musical guests on the show. So that always kind of bothered me. Now, this is the only time that there's not a credited musical guest. But for me, I putting myself in that age, I was like, well, why aren't we getting actual bands that I like? Why aren't we getting singers that I like? Buster Poindexter singing 3 songs? Like, let's do something else. So maybe from the perspective of an older age, I can appreciate it a little bit more. But at the time, I couldn't stand Buster Poindexter. R.I.P. David Johansen, who just passed away. But
indeed.
Yeah, and just speculated, like maybe it's just one of those things where the show didn't really know like where it stood, and maybe record labels didn't want to put musical guests on there, so they're having a hard time booking people. I mean, they're going to get Run DMC the episode after this, and like they would obviously grow into being like this really like iconic band, but like at the time, like it was pretty novel that they had them on. You're gonna get Rick Ocasek the next episode, like as not the Cars. You're gonna get Rick Ocasek, so it's like one of those things that's like it takes a while for them to probably just like establish themselves. And I think no doubt if this was an era where they like had it going, that there would be a musical guest here, but I think they were still figuring things out. And this episode, George Carlin aside, this episode has to be the most important premiere in the history of the show. Like, I don't think that there's another one that you could say really nails it in the way that they did. Like Marielle Hemingway's episode, I don't think has that. I don't think that Steve Carell, Kanye West has that. Like there's stuff there. There's things there that I think that's probably maybe the closest comparison in terms of like introducing us to, Bill Hader and Andy Samberg. But, again, it's just one of those things that like this is a unique episode onto its own. So certainly one that we'll be debating for a long time for the rest of this countdown as to where this will land on the list.
John, I have one more question before we move on. Since we lost Heft Teabags, that weird French foreign film that they inserted into this episode, is that from a different episode, or what's that from? Because that's what I didn't get.
Um, I think that was just inserted into reruns. Like I think they had that in the can. It wasn't from a writer that was on staff. It was from a writer. It was somebody named Michael Austin who put that together. I think at the time they were just collecting extra footage in case the show goes long or whatever it is. It never aired on a live episode, but then when it would air on places like Comedy Central and they wanted to repackage these episodes, they would place additional material into that. So I think you have, I think from the beginning of season 12, actually for the reruns, you have a lot of sketches that are inserted into it. Yeah, there's a film by Spike Lee that's put into the Malcolm Jamal Warner episode, the next one that isn't in the live airing. So that would happen there a lot.
And this starred Blair Tefkin, who went on to a great musical career, and Rupert Everett, who starred in My Best Friend's Wedding about a decade later. So it's very strange. It almost is non-canonical because it doesn't really appear in an actual episode of SNL.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, you will see that on Patreon if you see that one, because we are going to post the rerun of this episode onto Patreon. Okay, final segment of the night, always the most fun, as we talk through the the episode rankings. I need to change that on the graphic. Episode rankings, my rankings, and Bill's rankings. So hopefully you can see this. I changed this up a little bit. We'll also go through Bill's predictions and see where he stands after this week. And Jared, I'm going to ask you which one of the two of us is doing better so far with our list. Okay. So Bill, I had you go first last time. I will go first this time, and hopefully you could see this one a little bit better. But from 50 all the way to 39, so Patrick Swayze, Michael Jordan, David Alan Grier, Anne Hathaway, Jerry Seinfeld, Conan, Timberlake 38, Shatner, Justin Timberlake, and Gaga from 36. Then we had Walken and Foo Fighters, Alec Baldwin, Luciana Pavarotti, Vanessa Williams, and Sigourney Weaver is the 50 through 39. I will take you through my rankings here and where I place these 4 episodes, and then Bill, you can tell us how you place your 4. So Sigourney Weaver, this one I did put at number 1 for now. I feel like this is one that I definitely will evaluate as important episodes come on where to put them. But I think as far as greatness is concerned, it's hard to argue against this one so far compared to the other 11 that we have put on this one. I think Justin Timberlake and Gaga's has pretty much everything I'm looking for from an SNL episode. It is truly, really, really well done, except for maybe Secret Words. So like that's the one that's like almost there, but it's so good. I think Christopher Walken's Next is my 3rd on this list. We had some really good episodes we talked about here tonight. That one barely has any duds as well. Christopher Walken is so good in that one. And I think that the one tonight that I probably struggled with the most was the Alec Baldwin episode that has sweaty balls, but it was hard for me to put it up above some of the episodes that we talked about already, including Jerry Seinfeld, Shatner's, and Swayze's episode. I think it has that David Alan Grier quality to it, where the host is really good, elevates some stuff. It has that one epic sketch like the Wake Up and Smile. It has the sweaty balls. So I put it there because I think sweaty balls becomes more important to the history of the show than Wake Up and Smile, but it's there at 7 for me. So my list currently is Sigourney Weaver at 1, Timberlake and Gaga at 2, Christopher Walken and Foo Fighters at 3. I have put Seinfeld as my 4, Shatner as 5, Swayze is 6, Baldwin comes in at 7, Dag at 8, Timberlake from last week that we talked about season 38 is at 9, followed by Hathaway, Conan, and then Michael Jordan at 12. Bill, give us your thoughts on your list.
Yeah, Seinfeld keeps moving up for you. Very interesting. Yeah, I think, personal bias aside, I think season 12, episode 1 has to be at the top of the list right now for everything we've just talked about. JT brings it very, very well with this 4th installment of his hosting gig. Alec Baldwin, this one I struggled with the most, and for a lot of what you've said, John. I don't know. And talking through it, I might have to move it down just a little bit because I don't think some of these moments in the episode can hold up to sweaty balls and the monologue. Then I've got Swayze at number 4, Walken coming in at number 5 here. Again, like it's really hard looking at these multiple time hosts and seeing where they're going to land. But I think this is the right place for him. Shatner right behind him, Dag at number 7, Conan O'Brien at 8, Jerry at 9, JT season 38 at 10, Anne Hathaway and Michael Jordan bringing up the rear.
Jared, which list are you feeling better about right now?
Yeah, so I ranked the episodes similar, at least the 4 that we talked about, most similar to you, John, in that I had Sigourney number 1, Timberlake 2, Walken 3, Baldwin 4. Overall, I think my list more mirrors yours, John. But again, SNL really to each their own. There's some great sketches in each of these. I agree with the Baldwin episode. It's Shreddy Balls really brings it a lot higher than, like, if you took Shreddy Balls out of there, I'm not sure we're talking about that one in the top 50. But yeah, my list more mirrors yours, John. But Bill, that doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. We all have different takes.
It's all good, man.
You suck, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see. Eventually, Bill, one day we'll get a guest on here that agrees with you.
Oh my God, John. Here we go. We're only in week 3.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Those are our lists. Let us know what you think in the comments or in the live chat. We also have another fun segment, Bill's predictions. So Bill, you are doing pretty well on your 5-timers, where we got 3 more 5-timers on the list this week. So you have 4 already out of 10, 4 episodes.
Yeah, and last year I had a couple of really good categories, and there's always the one that makes me start sweating. And here we are, cast members, big old donut at 0 for 13 at this point. I might have overshot my shot on that one. But yeah, overall I'm pretty impressed. Seasons, I think I'm doing pretty well as well at 10 out of 31. So well on the way.
We have 1 premiere, 1 finale. I should have asked you for Christmas episodes too, but I didn't want to give you too many. But
yeah, I feel like Christmas episodes seem to be recurring a lot on the list so far. Yeah,
we got Shatner, we got Baldwin. I think that's it so far, but maybe other ones to come. But yeah, 1 premiere out of 5 so far, 1 finale out of 6 so far. Oh, it's 2 premieres. I should fix that for you. Yeah, you're so right. 2 premieres. I'll fix that for next time. But
you suck, John.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, you're getting closer there. When you do nail a prediction fully, we'll check that off for you throughout the list. And maybe, you never know, we still got 38 more episodes to reveal. Maybe you'll get 13 of them to be hosted by former cast members. We shall see. But this was a lot of fun, as we told you it would be here tonight. So Jared, thank you so much for joining us. You were absolutely great here on the show here tonight. So appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, John, lousy host, and Bill, you as well, kind of annoying. But I will be watching the list with anticipation and having fun in the chat. So again, thanks for the opportunity, guys. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I always tell Jared that he leaves the best YouTube comments. So if anybody else wants to challenge Jared for a spot for best YouTube comments, you got to take after this guy. He's really good at them. So thanks for joining us again, Jared. Bill, always a pleasure to speak to you here, week number 3. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here, Jared. Great job. Always enjoy your comments in the chat, and always bring in the solid knowledge along with some of our other great members there. So happy to be here, and so excited to get into next week.
Indeed.
It's going to be great. So looking forward to being back here 1 week from tonight to talk about the next 4 episodes on this list. We also have something else premiering on the channel this week, and which is on Thursday. We will have season 22 of Everything You Need to Know About Saturday Night Live. We're going out there for you guys. So I hope you watch that and enjoy it, and let us know what you think of season 22, all of your best memories. So that will be out. To never miss anything that we do have here happening on our channel, please subscribe, hit that like button whenever you enjoy something, and leave a comment. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to never miss an episode, and follow us on social platforms at the SNL Network, where we will post these graphics of these great episodes put together by our amazing production team. Every single Monday we'll post them from the previous week. So looking forward to talking to you all next week about these episodes. I want to thank latenighter.com for being our presenting partner for the show here tonight, and everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us for over 2.5 hours talking about the most epic episodes of Saturday Night Live. So on behalf of Jared and Bill Kenny, my name is John Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, and we will see you next time, everybody.
John, you're getting married. Hey, you're getting married soon, right?
I am. Yes. The show's still going. I am getting married in less than 2 weeks, so I'll be on the show next week. You'll see me next week.
All right. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Well, on behalf of everyone here at the SNN, we will see you next time. Have a good one.